Hello everybody, my name is Dave Jackson, and welcome to another Tales from the Backlog deep dive, where each week I'm joined by a guest to bring a game out of the backlog, play it, and discuss. Today's game is Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, and we'll see how long I can keep up with saying the entire title every time I reference the game. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is an action-adventure game developed by Ryu Ga Gotoku Studio and published by Sega for contemporary consoles and PC in 2025. It was directed by Yasuaki Uehara and produced by Ryosuke Hori and Hiroyuki Sakamoto. Past Yakuza games on the show. We have several at this point. We're building up a list. Yakuza Like a Dragon Ishin, Like a Dragon Gaiden, and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. If this is your first time, thank you for stopping by. Here is the spoiler policy for the episode. So we're not going to spoil the story for a while. If you have not played Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, and don't want to be spoiled on the story, you're safe for a while. You can see down in the show notes, there's a timestamp for when spoilers begin. But I am not here alone to talk about the game, to myself and to you all, I suppose. I have a guest, as always. My guest is a returning friend of the show, a panelist on Kane and Rince, host of the Character Issues podcast, and the most notorious pirate captain on the podcasting seas. Welcome back, Brian Edwards.
I'm not sure about notorious, but I think I might have the beard for it. That's about the only thing I have. Other than that,
that's true.
Not much notorious. But hey, Dave, thank you so much for having me back.
Of course.
As I've said before, huge fan of the show. Glad to be here as always, and especially when we're talking about anything Yakuza or Like a Dragon related. So
yeah, and likewise to you, big fan of the work that you do, of course. And
Thanks.
On the show here, I've been kind of like every new Yakuza game I do, I don't have repeat guests back for Yakuza because I have a circle of people I know, friends of the show, friends of mine who are big fans of the show. And I want to make sure I get everybody on for one of these games to talk about what we love about this series. And I knew, of course, from your work that you're a huge fan of the series too. So here we are. We're finally talking about a Yakuza game.
Yeah.
Real quick, previously with Brian, we have 2 episodes in the back catalog. We did Before Your Eyes in episode 22, which I think is a great discussion, and Near Replicant, which was episode 66, which also I think was a pretty damn good episode. Here, I was going to say, we're here for a Yakuza game, and I think it's one that a lot of people have skipped. Even the Yakuza series fans, I think a lot of them have not played this game yet, or like by the time people hear this, maybe they've gotten around to it in the summer or something like that. But Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. What is it? We have pitches for the top, elevator pitches, quick pitches. I say it is Yakuza's most unhinged character getting his own equally unhinged game. Brian, how about you?
I had Goro Majima hits the high seas for a pirate-filled romp with a brand new cast of scumbags.
Perfect.
It is, as you said, this equally the most unhinged character gets his equally unhinged game. I think is a pretty good encapsulation of the whole feel of this. It does feel from nose to tail like anything could happen plot wise. You know what I mean? Like that this is a game that might go off the rails, or even more so, might embrace how far it can go off the rails to an extent. So which will be interesting to talk about as we get into it.
Absolutely. It comes with the territory when Majima is the main character of a game. We'll definitely get into it for sure. In case people are wondering how long the game is, just some quick stats. I played this on PC. It took me 27 hours to get through. How about you?
I played the PS5 version, and I think I had 35. I should have looked yesterday. It was either 35 or 37. My last note was 35, but I think I had another play session after that. Okay. I want to say I rolled credits after about 30, almost on the nose, and then went back. We'll talk about the optional stuff that you can kind of engage with.
Yeah. So kind of unlike Like a Dragon, Gaiden, and Ishin, this is not the shortest game as far as like spin-offs in this series go. It's definitely the longest of the spin-offs that I've played, discounting Judgment and those games. But yeah, pretty meaty game, tons of side content per usual. 27 hours includes, for me, a fair bit of Substories. I did all of the optional pirate stuff, basically, but I skipped a ton of side content. So this could easily be like dozens more hours, depending on how much people want to play.
Yeah, there were, and as we'll get into in a bit, the amount of optional content in this game is huge. It is big, like you said, but a lot of that optional content may seem quite familiar to you if you had played Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth before this. So I think that might be a topic that comes up in a little bit. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, we always get started with our personal histories with the series and with the game. I think with this game, it's pretty simple to say the reason both of us wanted to play this and both of us played it either like on the day it came out or damn close to it is because we're both huge fans of the series. So I'd like to just get your little history here, which you've said many times on the Kane and Rince podcast. How did you get into Yakuza in the first place? Because like, it's like every time I see Kane and Rince is doing a Yakuza game, I'm like, okay, Brian's going to be there. Leah's going to be there. You know,
there's a couple of us
brought
now.
You to it. Yeah.
Honestly, pure luck, Dave. And this is I get sometimes my peers on Kane and Rince can kind of give me some ribbing because they think that I like engineer these stories of how I get into games because I tend to wax poetic sometimes about this stuff. But I was one of the lucky people that was able to get an Xbox Series X at launch. I was on Target's website, GameStop's website. But the only one that was available for purchase was a bundle that came with 2 games, and those games were Gears Tactics and Like a Dragon, Yakuza Like a Dragon. Excuse me.
Wow.
I had only ever touched Yakuza 0 before, and it didn't grab me immediately, so I kind of just moved away. It also seemed daunting because I was like, there's like 19 games or whatever.
Yeah.
But I got my Xbox Series X, my brand new console, and I have 2 games for it, and I just spent a bunch of money on it, so I'm not really like looking to spend a ton more on games. So I'm like, well, let's try these games. I put in Gears Tactics. I'm like, it's cool that I own this on disc. Super not for me. And so I put in Yakuza Like a Dragon, and I met Ichiban, and I always assumed those games were about Kiryu. They spoiler, they are a lot of them, but so I just kind of like, oh, it's turn-based RPG. I knew they had switched formulas just from reading the news, and then I just spent the next 120 hours of my life basically just devouring it. And then so I was like, oh, I should probably go back. I talked to my friend Leah, who's on the Kane and Rince podcast, Leah Haydu, and she said you should start with 0 and see if it grabs you. And I started with 0, and then it just they fell like dominoes after that. Once you're kind of get a little story invested and you get your teeth sunk in a little bit, for me at least, I was just off to the races. So now, as of talking, there's only 2 Yakuza games in the Like a Dragon franchise that I have not played to completion. Those would be Lost Judgment. I've played Judgment. I haven't played Lost Judgment yet. And Dead Souls,
the zombie one.
Yeah, the zombie one. I haven't played either one of those. I always forget that name. I mess it up. But went from being kind of like I'm gonna dip my toe into the water to within. So what are we talking? 2000 and whenever those consoles came out, 22. So within 2 to 3 years, having kind of devoured it all.
Yeah, it's pretty similar for me. I've told the story many times before, but I bought a PS4 and I just Googled top PS4 games, and Yakuza 0 was on a lot of those lists. And so I got a bundle on the PlayStation Store way back in the day that was 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 for like $20. And I just ripped through those, and I've been in it ever since. But so it's like both of us are super deep into it now, but by no means were we in it the entire time.
No, it makes you feel like a fake fan because I've known people for years who have been saying, how come people in the West aren't playing these games? You know what? Like they're this carnival of violence and nonsense and hilarity and melodrama and hilarity. And for whatever reason, I remember I played a touch of Yakuza 3 because I think it was a PS Plus game. Like we're talking years ago, or maybe not even PS Plus at the time. It was some sort of PS4 freebie, and I downloaded Yakuza 3 and I tried to start playing it, and just instantly I was like, who are these people? Why do they care about each other? I had no idea, But yeah.
Yeah. So just real quick, I wanted to ask you this, and I might be springing like the biggest question in the world on you with no prep, but here we go. Since you are one of the people who I've always had as like, sooner or later, we're going to do a Yakuza game on the show together. What is it about the series what's the secret sauce, in your opinion, to the Yakuza series? What keeps you playing all of these games, these like 10 plus games in the series now and every new release and all that stuff?
It's a very interesting question. Leah and I have talked about this at just between the two of us, just talking about it. And I think it's because it takes its story, its core story, so seriously. Like, it's always like death and drama and, you know, intrigue and betrayals on betrayals. You know, you think you know who the antagonist of a Yakuza game is, and then 5 hours before the end, it switches 7 times, right? Like that's just kind of what these games do. But then all the set dressing to it is whimsy. You know, it's all goofiness and like putting these super serious people into the most ridiculous situation. All of a sudden, Kiryu's a stand-in for action movies, and then, you know, or Ichiban's doing this ridiculous thing. And it all feels very earnest to me. It feels like, whether this is true or not, and I don't know, you know, the development stories from these games, but it really feels like the primary objective was to make me smile. Maybe not everybody, but people like me smile. And that kind of chaos to it, I think, just draws me in. And to now, like you said, like, we both played this game near or around launch. Like, I just kind of want to be there to see what they do next, like to see what weird stuff they do and how they try to keep this story in big quotes moving along. Yeah, I think that's it for me. Now, I saw you nodding during the first part. Do you feel the same? Like, do you share similar thoughts on that?
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that's changed as the series goes on. Protagonists have there's been a slight passing of the torch as far as the main character role. Combat systems have changed. Mini games have changed. A lot of it has changed, but that mix, that peanut butter and jelly of like extreme melodrama, where like if you're in a main story sequence, it, like you said, it's they are taking it so seriously. It's soap opera levels of drama. Yep. And then 30 minutes later, you answer a call for someone who is like desperate for baby formula, and you bring baby formula in, and then you find out it's a bunch of adult men in diapers in a diaper club, and it's just insane. But everybody like, they may comment on how weird it is, but like, they're in. So like, Kiryu's the most stoic, serious dude out there, but he'll go with all this weird shit that you go into. And then Ichiban, he's up for anything, and Majima is a whack job of a character. So, but they're all in for both sides of these things. So I think that is the real secret sauce of it all. Like, some people think it's the amount of mini games. Some people may think it's the combat systems. I mean, the characters themselves are super memorable and lovable.
Yeah. I don't think I've played a game series where, I mean, all these characters are original. They're coming from, you know, this series, right? You know, they're developing it. Like, it's not based on another property or anything like that, where they've created so many unique and individual memorable characters. And we're not just talking about the protagonists and their surrounding pieces, but even like, you know, like just sub-story characters, like I have an Ono Michio t-shirt, like, you know what I mean? Like, I have this t-shirt of this orange-headed man doing the pose, you know, and the way that they imbue these characters, these ridiculous characters, with like real world like feelings and depth, and like I just think whether it's the writing, the music, it all just kind of comes together in a way that draws me in, and a lot of likable characters too, which is nice. You know, the people that you just feel like everybody just seems so genuine in these games. I really enjoy that about it.
Absolutely, yeah. And so our game today is Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, is a big test of, I think, that secret sauce, because it's really different. As far as like the side stories go, Gaiden was just a mini Yakuza game. Like it was just most of the things that you can expect from it, but it's just 10 hours long instead of 30 to 70. Ishin was very similar, but just like a period thing, a period game. And then this one is so different. So to do our kind of like top level thoughts about Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii here. So I like the game. I like the series, and I like what the series does. And one of the other kind of things I was going to mention as far as like the secret sauce is that RGG just knows how to make a game. There's a consistent level of quality to the games. For sure. And I think that this game meets it. I would say I've played over 10. I can't count them anymore. We're too high for my degree level. But I've played over 10 Yakuza games. I don't think any of them are bad games. There's some that I like more than others, of course. And I say that to say Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is a pretty good game. It is one of my least favorite Yakuza games, but that doesn't mean I didn't have a whole hell of a lot of fun playing it. I think if you break it down into its component parts, as a Yakuza story, I don't think it's that good. It's not super entertaining all the time. I think the pacing's terrible in a lot of times. It's not a great action game, in my opinion. It's fine. It's not a great pirate game. I think a lot of people saw this and were like, I'm going to get my Assassin's Creed Black Flag on. And it's not really like that. It's okay as a pirate game. The component pieces are fine. As it is, it's just if you like the Yakuza games, I think you're going to have a bunch of good laughs and you'll have a good time playing this. And it's just not at the level as some of the better ones, even some of the better spin-offs in the series, in my opinion.
I almost wholeheartedly agree with that. And I'm not trying to make this for the most boring discussion in the world where we just echo each other's opinions, but you're right. It is a lot of the things that have made this franchise very likable to me coming together to form what I would consider a good video game, like you said, but as in the ranking of all the other games in the series, one that falls pretty low to the bottom. And I think the reasons for that, to echo some of the things you said, were the story, like you said. The pacing is quite bad. I can't remember if it was Act 2 or 3. I spent 80% of my game time was spent just in that act. And that was an act that involved a lot of back and forth to Honolulu. We'll talk about that. Yeah. And the story beats themselves were interesting, but not compelling. No, there was no whoa moment. There was also no super surprising moment. You kind of expected everything that came your way. And then you add that with all of the other mechanics that you mentioned, the pirate stuff. The pirate stuff is fun, but this is not a game about sailing the high seas and going from port to port, right? It's all sectioned off into these kind of these pizza pieces,
little
that make up
mini
the whole
zones.
Yes, exactly. And all of it is capable and enjoyable, but none of it excels, and it doesn't come together to form those things. One could probably say similar things about Yakuza 0, although I won't because I love that game. But the fact that it's got all of these things that are good, right? But the way that they come together, the way they stitch those two stories together, the way those mini games come together and affect the real story, and the way it all blends together, by the time you get to the end, it's this quilt, right? It's this beautiful quilt with all these sections that you loved. Where this game, it did feel like, wouldn't it be neat if we did this? Wouldn't it be neat if we did this? And yes, it is, and it was, but the parts all did not come together in nearly as satisfying of a way as they did in other titles. I felt this very similar about Yakuza 3. In my opinion, I felt that Yakuza 3 was much more focused, way less manic like this game is. But all of the pieces, none of them, they were all fine and they're all good, but they didn't come together in a way that was satisfying to me. So yeah, you mentioned the action, and I was really excited to get back to, because I played a lot of Infinite Wealth, and so I was like, oh good, I can get back to a Yakuza brawler, right? That's what this game is, Yakuza brawler, and it is all that, and it has these weird pirate powers and stuff. If you collect these instruments, and there's interesting, funny things that happen in there, but in reality, I was just doing the same, square, square, triangle attacks kind of over and over again, and I had my method for how I could take, if one enemy versus a group of enemies, I never really deviated. It never really gave me a reason to have variety. It was the same enemies. It's not that it was flat. It was just, it was generic, too harsh. Do you think? Would you say? Nah, I don't know.
It's it's fine. It's fine. I think there are some fun fights and there's some fun stuff that goes on. And I think there's even some little meta things about the way that these action combat systems work. I have some stuff I'll bring up later. Just a little tease for everybody. But yeah, I think that's just the general kind of thing that I came out with was I thought I was going to get a weird experience with Majima at the helm, and I did get that. And I thought it was going to have, the goofs and the drama that the Yakuza series is known for. And I think I mostly got that. And that pirate stuff. Like, I think everyone, or not everyone, I don't want to project, but I definitely saw the pirate thing in the trailer, and I was like, okay, big open map to explore. We're going to be doing, more pirate stuff, and it's pretty limited. What's there is cool, but it's pretty limited. Which, like, the second part of this, like, opening thoughts thing, and this is we kind of mentioned this is the game that I think a lot of people have skipped, and that includes a lot of critics who may cover the main Yakuza games now that they're much bigger than they were 10 years ago. And even some of them have skipped this game. And some of the reviews that I read kind of question how necessary something like this is. Yeah. And whenever I see the word necessary, it makes me think of Patches O'Houlihan from Dodgeball.
Is it necessary?
Is it necessary for me to drink my own urine?
No, but
I like to.
No, but it's sterile and I like the taste. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of how I feel about this. Like, is it necessary to get a side story about Majima that, like, ties into the main story, but, like, barely? Like, they could have done this in a cutscene in the next game if they wanted to, with the same tie-ins. Yep. Is it necessary? Who cares? Like, I kind of had fun just playing with Majima for a while and having him be the star. Kind of like I started with Yakuza 0, and Majima was one of my introductions to the series as, like, a totally different character from what he became in Yakuza 1 or Kiwami or something like that. So, I don't know, just, I don't have, like, a fully formed thought about whether this game is necessary. I just kind of come out of it like, it's different. I had an experience that I, had a good time with. It was valuable in some ways to me, so feels necessary, even if it's like, you look at the grand scope, if you're introducing a new person to the Yakuza series and you're like, Pirate Yakuza, like, worry about that one later. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is a pretty good way to describe it. Is it necessary, right? Like, no. Essentially, as it boils down to it, like, no, it's not necessary in the sense that you couldn't get the fully formed Yakuza story without it. Like, you could absolutely know the journey of Majima and Kiryu and Ichiban without this game. But am I glad it exists? Absolutely. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I didn't want it to be over. I wasn't, disappointed when I was done with it, or like, man, I'm sad they made that, or anything like that. But to me, it does say something about maybe, whether it's Yakuza fatigue or Like a Dragon fatigue. I keep doing that. I need to get better at that. Because, like, if you would have told the Like a Dragon fandom in, let's say, like 2018, I wasn't even a part of them yet, right? Like,
yeah.
But if you would have said to the faithful, hey, there's a game coming out, it stars Majima and he's a pirate, you would have had the internet losing their minds, right? Like people would have been clamoring for it. But now we've gotten to the point where we've gotten some very big games in relatively short order here, to where the time, like, we already had a side game before the last mainline entry to the game, and then now comes this other side game a year later. It does feel like a little, like, almost like a pulp fiction novel, like, it's just like, hey, it's another one of, these Western novels on the, from this author. I'm pretty sure I know exactly how this is going to go when you pick it up and you read it and you're like, that went exactly how I thought it was going to go. But you still enjoyed the journey. Like, there's value to that. But when you tell somebody, what somebody's, like you said, getting into the franchise, hey, what should I start with and what game should I play? This game would not be high on my list. And, it just kind of, it occupies that kind of in-between space. Certainly don't avoid it, but also nothing you need to seek out.
Yeah. You mentioned the possibility of Yakuza or Like a Dragon fatigue. And I had a bullet point for this later on, but we might as well touch on it now. Like, I think RGG is getting a ton of deserved credit out there for being okay with things like reusing assets, character models, animations, locations, entire maps and stuff, so that they can sustainably build these games and stick to a regular release schedule now. Whereas if they felt the pressure from some people out there who probably don't know shit about what it takes to make games to like fully recreate everything from scratch every time. Like people fucking do that in the first place. But like they get a lot of credit out there for being like, no, we're just going to reuse these maps. We're going to reuse the characters. We're going to reuse animations, all these things. And it's going to allow us to make games more efficiently. And the flip side of that, which I'm only starting to feel now, is, do I really want to play one of these every 10 months? Like, I love the series and I'll be there on day one for the next mainline entry in the series. But if it then becomes a time where it's like, actually, there's going to be 3 years between that one and the next one, I think I'll be okay with that. Like, it seems like maybe like too much of a good thing to just, it reminds me of, I don't want to use Marvel, but like, I feel like I log in every 3 months and see that there's a new Star Wars show out there. And I'm just like, I can't do all the Star Wars. And I love Star Wars.
Me too.
It's just too much. I don't give a shit anymore. And I don't want to reach that point with this series. If they get on like a fucking Pokemon schedule and it's like the new one every single year. Seriously. And it's like, wow, another one's just coming out. I feel like I just did the last one, you know? So that's like the flip 100%. Side of this efficiency that they've built up. And props to them for their success, that they've been able to make this series hit the way that it has. And now they're able to be like, you know what? We're going to make a fucking pirate game starring Majima and just give the longtime fans this thing that we know that they're going to think this is a cool idea for a game. Whereas if it wasn't as successful, this game would have never gotten greenlit. They would have had to stick to the main stuff. Like they can play around now, which is cool. But then that fatigue will set in, I think, even for the most beloved series.
And I think you could feel that in the way that you and I are both talking about this game. And as you said, it's not that it's bad, and it's awesome they reuse assets. I think it's great for the developers. I think it's great for the team. I think it's great and also it's great for the player too. Like when you show up and like now been to Honolulu twice, but I mean, you show up to, Yokohama or Kamurocho, like you feel like you're going back to your hometown. You know these places. It says if something is happening on Pink Street, you know where to go. And like, oh, the children's park. Yeah, I know where that is. Let's go check it out. I love that stuff. I love the familiarity with a place and feeling like I know my way around. And they've always been really good about giving us new and interesting things to do within those spaces that we know. And this one, I think, suffers a little bit from the fact that the location they reuse, Honolulu, is relatively new. So it doesn't have the nostalgia that you might have for certain things or familiarity, but also it being the very last place that we just were too. And I think that does set in some fatigue. And then that layers on itself, right? With some of the side activities are the same, some of this is the same, some of that, and you kind of move through it, and it's still very cool to run around that city. It's a really well realized play space, but then as you said, like if they get on that once a year, the annual schedule, or every big game comes out with a side story too, is that you can get oversaturated on that stuff. And I understand their want and willingness now, because it never hit in multiple markets like it did after Yakuza Like a Dragon. Like that game, Yakuza 0, probably the start of it, right? If I'm like going back enough, but then that made the series, that got a lot of coverage. People love that game. And then the turn-based game that everybody thought was an April Fool's joke turned out to be this thing that people love. And then now you're off to the races, right? Like this property's never been better for us. It's like become one of Sega's like marquee franchises. They're letting this team make a new Virtua Fighter, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? Like they clearly have faith in this team. They have faith in the developers and the creative leadership over there. So they're probably incentivized. Hey, let's put some of these out and let's continue this train. Let's continue the hype and keep it in everybody's minds. But you can run a risk there that if you deliver even a quality product that's just a little substandard, or not even substandard, is just not so great as the other ones have been to the fandom, that you get people like us who might be thinking the next one, like if Like a Dragon, if a third Ichiban game comes out and it has another sub-story like side game, Like, do I prioritize that the way I prioritize Gaiden? And I don't know right now. If it were to if they said it was coming out next February, I can tell you I probably wouldn't prioritize it because I feel like I just got done with this. But if you have that gap, it probably would build up to something a little bit more, a little more interest building towards it.
Yeah. No, I think that's that feeling. No matter how good it is and no matter how much you love the series, if you're coming into the new thing feeling like you just finished the previous one, I think that's where that fatigue starts to build in, even if it's something that you like. Like, I loved the Marvel series and I kept up with those movies for a long time. And then
Me too.
I just got to a point where I was like, I'm never watching one of these again. Like, I'm done because it was too much. And I don't want that to happen with this.
I was reading a review today, a really well written review on Polygon of the Thunderbolts movie that's about to come out. And it's like, it gets the MCU back to the things that you love about it. And I said, that's really cool. There's zero chance I'm seeing that in the movie theater. And it's not because I don't care about it. And it's probably quality, probably good. But at this point, it's just like, I can keep up, but the amount of energy I need to devote to keeping up takes my attention away from other things that I want to check out. There's only so much time, and you can't. When you expect that much out of everybody, eventually you're just gonna break up play bases and fan bases to the point where no one can pay attention to all of everything. So, it creates an interesting problem because I think we're gonna come out of this saying that we both enjoyed this game. Yeah, But the question you posed, was it necessary? I can think I can answer both those questions with a yes, a little bit. I'm glad it exists though, but yeah.
Like, I think we're going to come out of this, like you said, recommending it to series fans and saying that we thought the game is pretty good. We had a good time with it. But is it the beginning of that trend where, say there's a new side game that's announced for 2026, and then the next Ichiban game will be late 2026 or something? Like they did that last year, 2 years ago, or whatever that was. You may start to get that kind of unconscious thing of like, I don't know if I'm ready for another one quite yet. And that's tough to claw out of. And I think, like with other series in the past, like Star Wars, like the Marvel, the MCU, I have fallen out permanently of those things. And the trouble with video games too is it's not a 2.5 hour movie. It's a 30-hour game, or in Infinite Wealth's case, an 80-hour game. Complicated. RGG has a little bit of a conundrum, I think. And I think that we've seen it with the amount of people that skipped this game, even longtime series fans who may be listening to this to hear what we think.
I think like people who are in that zone who like these games, like this is the perfect game to be like, oh, that Pirate Yakuza game came out with Majima. That's awesome. I'm going to wait until the Steam winter sale, the winter sale next year, and pick that up then. Like when I have a vacation or I have a lull, like that's going to be my game that I pick up later on down the road at a discount, to fill a gap between GTA 6 and whatever. Pick your two big games, and and I think a lot of people view it as that because it was presented very much as a side story, like if you're invested in the Ichiban stuff and the Kiryu stuff from Infinite Wealth, there are hints to that. We will talk about a little bit of that after the spoiler wall, but that's not why you're there. They definitely frame this as, hey, Majima's on the high seas, being Majima, and that is very much a popcorn flick type of thing, or like I can wait for this to come to streaming before I play, that type of thing. So
absolutely. Well, we have had kind of a non-standard opening to the show, but we did get into I think it's been on my brain about like just the real top level thoughts about this game, but also kind of the direction the series is headed. So good to get those out. Let's get a music break in, and when we come back, we will set up the story of Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Haven't missed one yet. Takes place after Infinite Wealth, directly after Infinite Wealth. So the story does have some small tie-ins with it. Those are spoilers. We will save that. Should say in the spoiler section, we will spoil something from Infinite Wealth. So just kind of can't talk about this game without talking about that game. So after the events of Infinite Wealth, Goro Majima got on a boat to go from Hawaii back to Japan. Don't know why he's on a boat, but he's on a boat. Something attacks the boat. You see this in a cutscene, and the boat's destroyed. He washes up on the beach of a tiny island near Hawaii with no recollection of who he is or what happened. On the island, pretty much immediately, there are some guys who are pirates, ? Are they guys dressed as pirates? Are they real pirates? Who knows? But they challenge Majima to a fight. So the first situation of many where you solve all your problems by beating the shit out of people. So Majima befriends this young kid named Noah who lives on the island, and his father Jason and the rest of his family. Noah has a dream to see outside of the island, and he can't currently because of a sickness that he has. And yada, yada, yada. Majima becomes a ship captain of his very own pirate ship. And so begins an adventure to find a lost pirate treasure of legend that is located around the Hawaiian Islands. So that's basically the story of this. It's like two main plot threads. It's trying to find the treasure, and then this kind of like loose thing, like they're not trying to regain Majima's memories, but like they do slowly come back as it goes along. And so there is a storyline of like Majima remembering who he is, and people who knew him from before the accident kind of have these, of course they know him, but he doesn't know him. So like there's that mismatch there. What do you think of Majima's return to being a main character here? Because I want to see if you agree with me here. I think when we saw Majima as a pirate captain, the story is going to be about Majima. I thought it's just going to be fucking insane all the time. And it's not all the time. No. So what did you think of the way this went?
I was initially, I'd say, disappointed in the fact that it was a kind of that traditional amnesiac story, because I wanted Majima with all his memories and all his crazy and all his everything. You know, I wanted full tilt after the end of a bender Majima, you know, like just like that's who I wanted to play as, and it worked out fine, you know, as it went. But yeah, it does, for something that I thought was going to be this weird, like a Dragon Acid trip, ended up kind of being more of a grounded story, like about relationships and again, like you said, you described his regaining his memory fine, because that was never really a central plot thing. The central plot leads to a resolution of that, but it doesn't, that isn't the primary focus. Like, it really is, it's really kind of almost like a weird father-son story. With Jason and his two dads. I mean, Noah and his two dads, Jason and Majima, kind of, you know, and and which was interesting, but like, and tell me if you think I'm wrong here. Because, like, I think that, like, Majima definitely has a heart in those other games. He definitely has a moral center. He kind of trades on the fact that people believe he's this wild card, but in reality, he's kind of this calculated guy. But, like, the Majima I know kind of would have been, like, down for a pirate adventure, but, like, we can't bring this fucking kid along with us, can we? Like, I don't think, like, it was a different version of him. And that made things a little less unhinged, which I guess now in retrospect was a slight disappointment. But I was, at the beginning, I was kind of just, I was willing to go along with the ride no matter what, you know, because of my fandom for these games. So, but yeah, it did just seem a little less zany, for like it was a little serious and not, maybe not serious the right word, but at least grounded in reality more than I think the preview coverage might have led me to believe.
Yeah. I think that the way that I kind of understood that was when Majima lost his memories, he lost his kind of wild personality too. Yeah. Like, he's pretty chill at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think that the Majima from a couple games ago wouldn't be down for helping a kid live his dream of seeing the outside of this island so much. He would definitely be down for fucking shit up as a pirate, but like, you are right. Like Majima has always been intelligent. He's not just a wild card who will do literally anything for no reason at all. Like there's an intelligence and a calculation to him for sure. But as he loses his memory, he seems to lose that wild edge too. And as the game progresses, it kind of comes back gradually until you get to the end and suddenly you're like, oh, he's Majima again. But it makes for half of the game where Majima's kind of boring as a protagonist. Like he's still Majima. He's still kind of weird. The voice acting is great as always with Majima, but him as a character, he's not the goofy wild card that he always is. And then the plot of the game, I think, is pretty boring. Like until you get to the end and you kind of see the tie-ins with Infinite Wealth, and then you see why Majima was on that boat in the first place. Like that stuff was genuinely really interesting. And a lot of Yakuza stories are the most interesting at the end, I think. But the path to get there this time was way more boring than a story about Majima taking over a pirate ship in the real world, in real world Hawaii. Pretty boring in those like hours 5 to 20, I would say.
100%. It ends up just kind of being a tale about like fixing up a boat and assembling a crew, right? Like, and which is all well and good. I mean, that's a pirate tale, right? You know, you got to get a ship, you know, and be the captain and all those things. But the way you go about that is very errand-like. It's very, hey, there's this place that you can go. Okay, we get there. Well, your boat's not good enough, so go to this other place and get a better. Okay, you get to the other place and you get the better boat, and you get back and they're like, well, do you have the weapons you need to do the thing? And like it's shopping listy at the beginning, but the in between the doing those tasks, nothing, I wouldn't even say nothing interesting happens. Kind of nothing happens. Like it's just there. You're just kind of going from place to place, and it does introduce some of the boat mechanics in those sections and stuff. So I get that there's a part for that, but even the stuff in this map out of the seas that I found a little bit more interesting really didn't develop or reveal itself to a little bit later on anyway. So you've already done a lot of the doldrums of the beginning of that game. And I think when you start a Yakuza game, there is always that impression of like this is going to be, I'm going to be watching at least 90 minutes of cutscenes for the first 3 hours of this game and until I get like set out. But this game, it took a long time before it felt like you were really like unleashed. Hey, go do stuff. Go do whatever you want in whatever zone they had you in at the time, right? And it just took longer to get to that moment, which is surprising because if people are coming to play this Pirate Majima game, you almost have to be familiar with the franchise at a whole at that point. Because like it's a really weird entry point. Like this should not be your first like a Dragon game.
No.
And so most of the people playing it at least have some semblance of what's going on, but it still takes them a really long time to just let you do the thing. Like I remember, gosh, it must have been like 15 hours in, and I was like, I haven't even gotten my boat like combat ready because I was just running around doing a bunch of other stuff, right? And maybe not 15 hours, probably more like 10 hours. But yeah, it's a slog might be harsh, but it's certainly dull for sure at the beginning of that game.
So I agree with you. Like it is pretty dull if you were to write out what's going on in the story for a while. Sure. And if I was bored to tears by it, I would have put it down. I would have been like, we'll figure something else out to do. I think there are things that will help people get through that. I said Majima himself at the beginning is kind of reserved and toned down. It's almost like, well, not to get too psychoanalytical, but Majima is like the product of all these weird experiences he's had and this like character that he puts on publicly and like losing his memories makes all that shit go away. So he's pretty tame at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, the only thing he's really left with is his physical badassery.
Yeah.
Like, that's still intact. And don't get me wrong, Majima can absolutely wreck shit still. But and he knows that because he kind of feels it innately. He's like, wow, like I'm really strong. These guys are pretty weak. Like he becomes that like physical superhero almost, but he misses, he's lacking that danger element, that wild look in his eye, that, you know, the kind of dangerous side of him is like shelved essentially.
Yeah, that kind of that trademark Majima cackle doesn't come out a lot in the early game. And then later on it does. But I was going to say the things that kind of kept me going are the other aspects of this game outside of like the plot and outside of Majima himself can be goofy as hell. And some of the funniest and goofiest shit the series has ever done. So I think that it starts with the fact that this game is presented with this framing device of Majima telling the story after the fact. So, and this is fully formed Majima after he's regained his memories. So obviously there's going to be some weird shit in the way that he claims things happened. So one example is one of my big complaints about Infinite Wealth was I played in Japanese, and the voice acting for characters speaking English in Infinite Wealth was not good. It was distracting.
It's distracting for sure. Yep.
It's a logistical nightmare that they created for themselves by setting the game in an English-speaking country with a Japanese-speaking cast. In this game, Majima's just like, yeah, the language barrier was tough, but don't fucking worry about that. And then everyone just speaks perfect Japanese the entire game.
Japanese,
I thought it was funny.
Yes. That's great.
But there are multiple song and dance numbers, like musical song and dance numbers in this game. There are some of the weirdest side stories, sub-stories that the series has ever had, including, for my money, the single weirdest one I've ever experienced in a Yakuza game.
I think I know the one you're speaking of. I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about it later.
The one I texted you like, hey man, did you do this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the side stories do get like batshit in a good way, in a fun way. And for once, maybe in a Yakuza game, I feel like I don't want to say there weren't enough of them, because there were a bunch of them, but they just didn't. Maybe they didn't happen at freaking. Maybe I gorged on them. That might have been my fault. You know, anytime I see any blue icon on the map, you know, I would just go immediately substory. So that might have been more of a me problem than the game problem. But
also contributing to kind of the goofy factor is RGG has, for my money, the best localizers in the entire world working on games. Translations and scripts for English are incredible, like the best. And this game, no different. The script, like the translation, different characters speaking different ways and stuff is all great, except in this game, bunch of pirate lingo everywhere. And it's really funny. So like it's weird to say that the plot is kind of boring. Majima himself is kind of boring for a little bit of the game, but all these other aspects of the game contribute to that goofy tone, that unhinged quality that we thought we were getting from the game. It's just not from the source that I thought it was going to come from, you know?
Right. I feel that completely, because I remember there's the first time, this is not spoilery, but there is a location that is filled with mostly pirates or pirate adjacent people, right?
Yeah.
Which you would imagine in a pirate game, like a dragon. And it is just, everyone is fully committed to the bit. It's like they fooled themselves into thinking that this is, I mean, it's real to them. It's their real life. It's their passion. It's everything. So like this culture of this honor among these pirates and the way that they speak, like even throwing back to some like 1800s era like lingo and stuff for seafaring, like it's amazing how much they've committed to, like, oh yeah, like there's a whole legion of pirates that exist and live these pirate lifestyles, and there's some pirates that buck the pirate code and go off and do you know, like it's wild, and it sells it, because it's really, because you start thinking about it, like if you think about the pitch of this game, how do you justify, you know, wooden ship cannonball firing pirates in 2024 or 5, whenever this game is set. And they do a pretty good job of ironing over that right away. It's just like, nope, it's just this, there's just a group of islands, these people, this is what they do. We just, you know, and it's like, all right, I'm in, like, you know, and that's where a lot of the goofiness comes from. Like this, another example, which one location, same place, there's this, like, it's essentially a castle But it's like where the two leaders of the pirates meet, and they are in like a Renaissance era, like throne room with these two giant thrones and butlers and red carpets. Like you walk into this place, you're like where the hell? Like what? Like this is like the zaniness is in a lot of the set dressing and and the believability that this structure exists to begin with. Like it's hilarious and it's funny and like. You roll into a throne room and you see this beautiful woman in a chair as the pirate queen, and the other one is Samoa Joe the wrestler, and it's just like you're like this is why I'm here, like this is it, like I have arrived, right? Mm-hmm. But like you said, it doesn't come from the traditional sources, or maybe not even. It comes from different sources, and so I guess it does subvert your expectations a little bit, but like you said, this game was sold to me as the idea that I'm going to be this crazed madman on the high seas, and it just comes from a different place, I guess.
Yeah. And I wanted to shout out the voice actor Hidenari Ugaki, who voices Majima for all the games, not counting Mark Hamill in Yakuza 1 apparently. But and you played in Japanese, right?
Yeah, I've played them all in Japanese, so it was tough. I attempted to do a replay of Yakuza Like a Dragon in English, and the first time I heard Ichiban talk, I'm just like, and it's not like it's a bad performance, it's just it wasn't my Ichiban, so I never tried again. So
right, I talked about that in some past series episodes where it's like the voice actors could get the best voice actors to do English, and I would not even try it because I have hundreds of hours with these characters and these voice actors. I can't accept somebody else. Anyway, it's not that Hidenari Ugaki does a bad job voicing Majima. It's just like the way they wrote Majima for a while, he just kind of tame compared to his surroundings. And then it does get into the Majima we know and love at a certain point, but it's a pretty gradual thing there.
And even at the beginning, when they're kind of setting out on this grand adventure, which you set up for us earlier, he gets the ship and hits high seas. He's almost having to be strong-armed into some of this stuff at the beginning, like stuff that the Majima we know from our hours playing the game would have been either completely down for or completely against. He's not an unwilling participant because he's trying to figure out his memories. He's certainly doing this by his own accord, but he's not down for the craziness of it all as much as he is just kind of along for the ride. And a lot of this is set up in the story because as this story goes and as the mysteries become revealed and everything else, like Majima himself becomes a bit player kind of in the larger scope of things. And, which I guess is true to his character throughout the whole franchise, but when you think of a game centralized around him, you're thinking that he's going to be that central thing, and his memories are that, but it really does become about this League of Pirates searching for this treasure, and then obviously, of course, because it's a Like a Dragon game, it ends up being a lot more grand than just this little League of Pirates, but essentially, that's the core mystery of the whole game, and When I was, thinking that Majima's tale was going to be the center, he's a part of it, but he's not necessarily the focal point that I was expecting.
Yeah, he's like the unifying force among all of these groups, and especially among the misfits that make up your crew and the people and by the way, they're all weird as shit characters that join your crew. Oh yeah, and Majima unites them into the Goro pirates, I think they're called, and some other factions who are searching for the treasure. Majima will sometimes help unite them. We all use our strengths together to try and find this type of thing. So he is like the leader, of course, but it still doesn't feel like a story about Majima. It's just like Majima's the leader in the story, if that makes sense. Yep. Also, just to me, we talked about that secret sauce of the series earlier, and it boils down to story and tone, I think, a lot of it, where you have the goofy tone, it's usually in the side content, and then you have like that super melodrama. And the melodrama was pretty lacking, in my opinion, in here. Even when the grand schemes were revealed, I might be like, this might be blasphemy to some. I'm usually like pretty entertained by Yakuza grand schemes, every story's got one, every game has one. I'm usually like, okay, pretty entertaining, this is what's going on here. I'm usually more there for like the characters and my like love for them and how the story might affect them and stuff like that. In this game, I love Majima, but as we said, he's kind of just like an actor in the story rather than like the focal point of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the story itself, the grand scheme, just kind of boring in my opinion. So
yeah,
we have like that kind of like I said, peanut butter and jelly earlier, where like the ratio's off, I think. There's not enough of like interesting melodrama for this to really hit the way most Yakuza stories do. Because like even the ones in the past two games, maybe let's just take Infinite Wealth. The grand scheme, like the quote, the crime story in Infinite Wealth wasn't great in my opinion. It was fine. But what made Infinite Wealth really work was we have Kiryu's story about his illness, and then we have Ichiban's story of trying to find his mom. And those are like very, very personal stories with these characters that we deeply love. And this game just doesn't hit on those aspects as well. Like the story just kind of, you go through it and you're like, all right, well, that sure was a pirate story.
Yeah. It was really well explained. And I think I agree with almost all aspects of that. What I would say is that where you get the character stories from this game, I think you get way more from Jason and Noah than you do from anyone else. Like they're kind of rediscovering their relationship, and then Noah's got his illness. He has some respiratory issues basically, and him kind of overcoming some of that. And then Jason, being this troubled kind of alcoholic dad, which they don't resolve the alcoholism, that's for sure, because he ends up drinking to get power during fights. But but it's kind of about them, and that's fine. But there's two problems I have with that, and the one is that, well, not even problems. You're not as familiar with either of those characters, so you're not as emotionally invested in their story from the outset. They do a pretty good job of building in reasons to care about them. But then Jason's involvement in some of the other pirate stuff, it goes to places, but then everything has like a very hard stop. Like it's like, someone was involved in this League of Pirates and then they died, or they found what they wanted, or their kid found what they wanted, whatever it is. And then these things come to the screeching halt, but there's no like thread that carries them through the entire pirate story. It's all just about this treasure. And you don't learn anything valuable about Majima during the way he doesn't progress as a character in ways that we are used to in these games. I thought it was a real risk in Yakuza 4, even though I didn't play when it came out, where like they start that game off and you're not playing as Kiryu, right? You're playing as the other character, Akiyama. But they do a really good job of setting up his stakes and his motivations very early, and they get you bought in. And that's kind of what that's all about. There was no real buy-in, and also no real stakes. Like, you want Majima to get his memories back, and we've talked about that, but there's no, like, the finding of the treasure. Like, if this game ended and they didn't find it or found it, like, I was never like emotionally invested in that part of it. Like, it's not that I didn't care, it didn't do anything to really hook me in the way, like you said about Infinite Wealth, those two stories about Kiryu and Ichiban. That game could have been mechanically uninteresting, and I would have still played through it to see how those stories resolved.
Exactly.
I was invested in that. This game, it just never did that thing to getting me to that place. And I would say that Gaiden does a better job than this game of that too, because even though it's hilarious that you're playing as Joryu, but still, like, you felt like you were getting to see the branch between Yakuza 6 and Like a Dragon, and what Kiryu was doing at that point. Like, I was interested to know what he was doing during those time frames. Exactly, during this, there was nothing there to be, like, no meat on the bone for any of the main characters that was captivating enough to make me really remember it. I told you briefly as we were preparing for recording the show right before we started that, like, I had to go back and read a few things to, and I'm not talking about like the weird plot beats where like there's double crosses and all these other things. Like, I had to go back and like read. Like, I really like, oh yeah, and then that happened, and then that, like, because it didn't stick with me in the way those other games did. and that lack of stickiness, whatever they're missing from that, it was narratively not uninteresting, but narratively bland. Like there was no captivating mystery there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you described with Infinite Wealth, I think a lot of those captivating mysteries does a lot to elevate some of the tedium in between those beats, right? Because you know that when you get bogged down, if you've just done too much, pick your side activity, right? And like, okay, I need a break from this. There's a story mission to go back to that you want to see what happens. And this game just did not have that for me.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. And I think Jason and Noah too are just not the most interesting characters.
Yeah.
Noah's cute, and he's, he makes an odd couple with Majima, of course, Majima being who he is, and then this innocent little kid and stuff. But as characters, like, I didn't ever really care what Jason had to say. He's not the most interesting person. So like if we have a side story about like their family, I don't really care as much. So I think that what I came out of this with, we were being pretty critical of the story here, which I think is fair. It's not the most interesting story. What I came out of this experience with was a collection, whether they're involved with the main plot, whether they're side things, or whether they're just little weird things like a song and dance number when you first get your pirate ship. It's like a collection of weird moments along the way, rather than a storyline that really compelled me to keep playing. It was almost like, I'm going to keep playing to see what happens in the story, to see, what weird new gun am I going to get to outfit my boat with, stuff like that. Yeah. What's the next weird side story going to be? Rather than like, I can't wait to see how we're going to find this treasure. And then looking at the whole thing, my memory of it and what I think is the thing that is truly most interesting is kind of a random assortment of moments along the way, rather than I loved when this happened in the story. There's like almost none of that in this game. And then the ending is genuinely interesting for longtime fans of the series.
It really is. Yeah, and
there is that.
We'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say is I think this game for me, I'm going to say something critical about a game that people love. So please don't get mad at me, internet. But this game has what I like to refer to as the Suikoden problem, which is, and I say this, your pirate crew is a cast of characters, right? And you assemble your crew over time. There are, is it triple digits, the amount of crew members you can get in this game? It's got to be close.
There's got to be, yeah.
Yeah. So much like Suikoden, right? You can get all these party members, and it's cool because you're recruiting them all over the place, and you want to talk to everybody because you're not sure if they're going to join your crew or not, all that good stuff. But because there's so many of them, like in my head playing this game, this is me, my perceptions, not based on reality. What I thought is that you're going to like get to know this crew the way that Kiryu got to know his crew, or right. Or like, it was like, or you would have a new version of a Saejima or an Akiyama, or pick your different characters, right? And you'd get to know these characters throughout the journey. The only two you really get to know anything about are Jason and is it Musaru? Is that the chef? I always mess up his name.
The chef.
Musaru. Yeah. Those two, you get a lot. You learn a lot about them. But everybody else you pick up for your boat is literally just a stand-in for their particular role on the boat. So, like, you can go out and collect all these crew members, and it's cool, and there are some very funny characters that you can get to be on your crew, but you never really, it's not that game about, like, your crew of pirates go out and do anything. You only really know a couple of them, and even the ones you do know, you don't know well enough to care about in any meaningful way. Yeah. And that's the problem I have with like, or at least not the problem I have, but that's what stops me from like really buying into a game like Suikoden is that I'm never really attached to any character because they all feel very replaceable to me. And I felt like that was a problem in buying me into giving a real shit about these characters that were on my boat. Which is also funny to say that out loud because they allow Noah, this approximately 10-year-old boy, to stand on the deck of this boat while they're having real cannonball fights. Yeah. So you got to suspend your disbelief a little bit, but.
Yeah, not only is Noah allowed on the boat, Noah like offers up the pirate crew for dangerous missions all the time.
All the time. He is all in for like absolute suicide missions. Noah's like, well, we're doing this, right? You promised me you'd show me life outside the island, so
100%.
let's get in a fight with this ghost ship or whatever the hell they're doing there. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. The crew, I said earlier, they provide some comedy because they are a lot of the crew members that you recruit are just little jokes of characters. You know, there's Captain Beef, the guy who dresses in cow colors and makes cow puns all the time, and like he's kind of funny. He's not a real person. Like I can't care about Captain Beef, you know. And
Captain Beef doesn't care about Captain Beef.
Exactly. Yeah. I am with you on the Suikoden comparison, by the way. I played Suikoden 2, and I couldn't tell you a goddamn thing about any of the characters except for you and Joey and Luca Blight. That's it in that game. And it's I've been thinking about this as Suikoden's been remastered and re-released, but it's the exact thing that you said. It's like, cool, there's 108 characters. Am I going to care about all 108? Absolutely not. Like that's an impossible thing to write up. So, you know, if a crew member was in danger and like there's some side content where like one of your people gets kidnapped by these pirates and like I was kind of like, oh, she's kind of cool, but also like, what do I really know about her other than she's the reason I'm doing this pirate side quest? So, and
not to unfairly compare these games to the other games in the series, but it's pretty easy to like if at any point in any of the mainline numbered Yakuza games, if Haruka was in danger, I was motivated to save her, right? I had this whole history with her and why she mattered to Kiryu and all these things. But as you said, not that you want, like, of course I'm going to save her. I'm not going to let her get killed by some pirates, right? Like, I'm not going to let this other crewmate get killed, but also like, if this scares her so much that she doesn't want to be in the crew anymore, all right. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we'll see you later. Just didn't have that motivation to keep the gang together, for lack of a better term.
Yep. So overall, I think to kind of put a bow on story talk for now, it has a lot of like the classic moments that you would expect from one of these games. You have your goofs, you have your melodrama, even if it's not as effective as we said for various reasons, there is still a bunch of it. I think that some of the stuff is pretty cool towards the end. Once you get out of like that structure that you said, where like the majority of your time playing the game is just ways to upgrade your boat and ways to get more crew members before you can actually move the story along. So like the pacing is not great, but for longtime fans of the series, you get to play as Majima, you get to see him in these weird situations. And I think some of like that goofy, unhinged tone comes from any time you ever step back from the situation and be like, like you said, look at all these people living inside of a volcanic island rock. And they have this weird pirate society in here. Like if you ever just think about where you are and who these people are and how they live, like the goofs come from that just by nature. So like it's not by any means an essential story. And frankly, it's pretty boring for a lot of the time as far as like the plot goes. But there are moments along the way that got me through it for sure.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what it is, right? You'd have a sequence or a fight or a story beat or a sub-story or whatever it is that re-energized you to get through. And I know we've been fairly critical, as you said, but that's not indicative of... That doesn't mean that I think this game is a boring game with a bad story. I don't think either one. I don't think you can play this game and think it's boring. But I do think that there are boring moments within it. And it's how much mileage are you going to get out of the things you like about Yakuza games? And is there enough here for you to enjoy this game? For me, there was. But it comes with a lot of caveats. And it's hard to explain too, like for people who haven't played the game or people who have been waiting to play it off. Like it's one of those feelings you can kind of only really feel it when you're actually playing it. Like you're happy to be there if you're at the game. Like I was thrilled to be on this adventure with Majima. Like here we go. And I never wasn't happy to be on that trip, but it just maybe wasn't as exhilarating as I had built it up in my head. So
and for people who maybe they played Yakuza 0 years ago and loved that game and loved being able to play as Majima, and then you haven't been able to since that time. It's been almost 10 years now since that game came out.
Yeah.
So if you've been waiting for that, this game may let you down a little bit in that way. But at the end of the day, like, I think that there is just kind of an inherent joy in playing as Majima and having so much time with him, especially as he starts to like become more and more himself as you go.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Speaking of becoming more and more himself, that involves beating the shit out of a lot of people. So we're going to take a music break. We're going to come back and talk about what it's like to actually play Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. So we have three main components, I think, to this game in particular. We have pirate stuff, we have action combat, and we have mini games. So two of those are Yakuza standards for much of the series and all of the series in the case of side activities. Real quick, the game either takes place in Honolulu, where Infinite Wealth took place, and it's the same map, the same open map. You can run around, you can fight dudes on the street, go in restaurants, go in stores, do side activities out there, and then you'll get into a bunch of fights, and then as you're out and around in Honolulu, you do Substories, save people on the street from hooligans, and that's kind of how you fill out your crew roster. So you need to do some of this like side activity stuff to get good crew members, we'll say. And I say good crew members because we'll get into the pirate stuff now, but I thought this pirate stuff got pretty damn challenging, especially late in the story. And then if you do the side activities that center around pirate stuff, those were legitimately hard. I thought the difficulty balancing on them was pretty weird. And it was only like right when I was about to be able to go beat the game, after doing a bunch of these like crew recruitment type side things, was I finally able to do like those pirate side stories. But real quick, let me like kind of introduce what the pirate stuff entails. So the basic thing is the ship combat. So you sail around, like Brian said, it's not an open world. It is a zones, and the zones kind of have like lanes where you can catch wind gusts. What it really turns into is like, it's not a game where you're going to explore around in your boat. You always know where enemy ships are, where are islands where you can stop and look for treasure. So it's not, there is no exploration as far as pirate stuff goes. On the boat, when you get in combat, you have a forward machine gun and you have cannons on either sides. Your cannons run on cooldowns, and you start with regular ship cannons. Eventually you can like launch sharks and lasers and all kinds of goofy shit. That's the gist of pirate combat. You sail around, you try and line up your cannons, side to side with another boat so you can hit them. You don't really have to aim. They lock on once you're in a certain hit zone and stuff. So the ship combat is really, really simple at the end of the day, I think. So I think this is the thing where like we see a new Yakuza side story, but it's a pirate game. I remember Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Like that sounds really cool. What did you think of the ship combat?
Yeah, I think it was initially exhilarating to kind of be out there. Your ship is so maneuverable. It has a boost button.
It has a boost and a drift button.
Yeah, and you can drift on the high seas. So at first you're like, oh, this is going to get wild. What you find out though, or at least what I found out, to my opinion, was that like it becomes very repetitive. These battles kind of go the exact same way depending on how many ships there are. So there's ships of different classes that'll be easier to take down. Essentially all it really boils down to is how big the health bar of a ship is, really. And then, so you kind of get into this pattern, at least I did, where, you take out the little ships first, and then there are some sequences where there's like a leadership, and if you take that leadership out, the battle's over, no matter how many ships were left around you. So much like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, you have like a ship combat part, and then you board the ship, and then you will fight on top of the ship. And then, and the first like 5 or 6 of these, and then you get to the pirate zone, and you're like this is a Yakuza game, so there's going to be an arena here, and sure as hell, there's an arena there, and you do these battles. And, and I was like, great, I'm going to do all of these. And I did a lot of them, but boy, the 2 things you already mentioned, it's simple, not necessarily to a fault, because they do require you to do a bit of it, a large portion of it for the story. So you don't want it to be something that is only optional or so challenging that it's going to knock people away. But the difficulty scales up in a way that just does. I hate to use the term unfair when it comes to any video game, because like you could do things to make it, to give yourself the advantage. But it's such a steep, like, you're going through and you're doing these battles, like you're just crushing it. And then you hit this brick wall. And you're like, what do I do? So you're trying to upgrade your cannons, do this other stuff. But the ship combat itself, I think, was, once you kind of developed a strategy that was working, you were not incentivized at all by the game to change that strategy, because there were no different ship types. There were some different weapons, like you'd have to, some things, so you might be rationing your repairs a little bit differently from fight to fight. But in reality, you're just kind of going in circles and shooting at boats. And it was fun, and it looks nice. Sounds really nice. But once you've done it once, you've kind of done it, and each one scales up. So there might be more ships or more enemies on the ship when you board it, but the same process remains. And by the end of the game, I was thinking to myself as I was going through, I'm like, am I going to try to platinum this game? I have this dream in my head of going back and trying to platinum a bunch of Yakuza games. And I thought that'd be kind of a fun thing. And I looked at it and I was just like, this is not engaging enough for me to go through all of these platinum tier fights and do all these things and really go through, because when you're thinking about your loadout for the ship, it's not detailed enough, or it's not complex enough to get satisfaction out of for me. And it just became one of those things like, I'm either gonna have to get lucky, or I'm gonna have to get really into the fine tuning of this ship, and neither one of those things I became too interested in.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that the ship combat is fun, but it's not very deep. And you might do too many of them, or you might do ones that are too hard for you. And like once you hit that point where it's either too many or too difficult, or both, where you start to realize, like, I don't have a lot of options here for how to get over this. The way to get over a difficult ship fight is get better crew members that have better stats, and just put them, this character's really good at the cannons, so I'll put him on the cannons. And once that's set, I don't think that there's like, it didn't feel like there was a degree of skill that would get you through something where you were like slightly less than evenly matched at, or maybe like that's the limit. Like you're never going to overcome something that's like a couple levels too high for you through being good at it. Like,
correct. Yeah.
And this, for me, was most present in the boarding fights. The ship fights, I could get through those against a tough ship because I was pretty good at maneuvering, and I had good cannons and I was great with the machine gun and stuff like that. But then you have to board the ship. Yeah. And then you have to board the ship, and if your crew are outstatted by the enemy crew, you have no chance. They'll all die in 10 seconds, and then 100%. It's like Majima versus 75 fucking guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not like in the parts in the story where it's Majima versus 75 guys. Like they felt unfair. Like they felt different. It's the same action combat that you do on the ground, but when you're on the ship versus 40 people, it's impossible. 1v40, whereas the story puts you in 1v40s all the time, and you have no trouble with those.
There's also differing enemy types too, which we didn't talk about. So like when you're doing those boarding battles, that you have there's sometimes you're fighting these like cyborg pirates that will have this like yellow laser they'll sweep the screen with. You get hit with that thing once, like you're done, and it takes out a large majority of your crew members, and then you're screwed. And then you also, it's worth noting that you do, aside from your crew slots that you have for the cannons and the guns and stuff, there's also 3 slots you can do for like assistance through the fight. So when you're boarding, they give you different abilities. Some might boost attack and lower the enemy's defense. Some might heal your crew, some or whatever. But these are just, it almost felt like a rock, paper, scissors mentality. Like, well, if I know that they're going to do high damage, so I'm going to need heals, or they're going to do this, I'm going to do that. And once you, like, but even then, if you weren't leveled appropriately, if your crew wasn't scaled appropriately, it wouldn't matter. You could have the exact right setup for the fight, but you're not joking. And for those of you who listen, Dave was not joking. They're, like, quite literally, some of these battles would take 10 seconds, and they would wipe 30 members, right? They wipe all 30 members of your crew. And then you're stuck, like he said, just fighting a mob as Majima. And despite his efforts, you're not going to overcome that.
Yeah. So you have like these 3 kind of like leaders of the boarding party. I never found a third, by the way. Like, I feel like I did a bunch of stuff, never found a third leader. I just had 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I felt like the story did give me somebody who's like an obvious person I could put in that role based on their importance throughout the series. Couldn't do it. But
interesting.
Those fights, like if you are level appropriate and like, cause your crew levels up, so you can go grind up your crew to max level. And if they're all good, eventually you get to a point where you can do it. It like just maxes out at like, it's too, what's the word? Like you're kind of like teetering on the edge of like, am I way over leveled or am I way under level? Like, am I going to die in 10 seconds or are they all going to die in 10 seconds? And it was only in like the hardest ones when my crew was fully leveled up where I felt like, oh, this is kind of like a good challenge here.
Yes. And the other thing too, to make this needlessly complex for a simple system, each crew member has a letter grade assigned with them. So like, or excuse me, not a letter grade, like a color rank. They're like bronze, silver, and gold crew members you can have. So you might have bronze members that are max level, but if you have all bronze members, you're not going to be nearly as powerful, even if they're at the level or higher than the crew you're fighting.
Right.
So now you have to seek out people that are at least silver, hopefully gold, but you might get, and there's some special characters. And of course they'll sell you a premium pack where you get all the characters you love who are the best, but it does become this tedious mix and match thing that I don't think the work you need to put into making that crew great, the reward for doing so is just another ship battle, a version of which you've already done against harder enemies that are now just not hard anymore. Like, that's the only difference. It's not like the gameplay doesn't change. You don't get new skills. You don't get to do that. It's just, they just don't do as much damage anymore and I do more. Okay, great. And there's a plot line that goes through there that you've already mentioned where you're required to do a certain amount of these ship battles. So it's not, this isn't something you can entirely avoid like many other Yakuza side stories. Like this is something you have to engage with in order to complete the game.
Yeah, and part of the main story will have you do these. You have to go fight in that arena during the main story, so like you have to do your due diligence with it. I did do the whole side quest chain with the pirate stuff, so I did do it. I beat the final thing. It was
the
devil flags. Yeah, I did the whole thing. It was really hard at the end.
Yeah,
but I did do it. So like, me complaining about it doesn't mean that it wasn't like doable. It was just like you said, I had a crew of everyone max leveled. It would say like, oh, your cannons rank S, machine gun rank S, repairs rank S, and then I go in and just get the shit beat out of me when I board the ship, and I'm like, what is happening here? And it's because I needed to do more side content to get better crew members, basically. And then the other part of pirate stuff is these island treasure hunts. So as you're sailing, there will be landing points where you go in, and each one of them has a bunch of fights. They're like linear combat dungeon challenges with limited healing and stuff like that. It's like the old kind of linear dungeons from the other games. You can't use your healing items. There's one place to heal usually. You fight a couple groups of enemies, then you find a treasure, and the game gives you like a checklist of treasures to find. The rewards for these are not great, although they can be awesome if you do very specific ones to get these these instruments, these dark, the dark gods instruments that are summons that you can use in combat, which are fucking awesome.
They're incredible. You can summon a gigantic chimpanzee to come down and just beat the shit out of everybody. It's awesome.
Exactly.
It's hilarious. First time I did it, so like the first one they give you, I believe, is the shark.
Yeah, the guitar.
The guitar, yeah. And so like
sharks.
So I'm thinking, hey, these are all gonna be nautical themes. So the next one comes up, I'm like, oh, and the next one's jellyfish, right? Like, oh, okay, cool. And the third one is a fucking chimpanzee. I'm like, what is happening on this boat? Oh man, that delighted me. Anytime you fired those off, because the musical cue that goes along with them is so like dark and like totally. And Majima will comment, is like, he'll like laugh about it. It's like, it feels like it's taking a part of my soul every time I use it. like it's so stupid and funny. Those moments are great. But
those
counterpoint to that, like you said, like those, they do mirror a lot of those dungeons you would find in the Infinite Wealth or the Like a Dragon games. But the one thing that is frustrating about them is that the types of encounters you have during those sections are not varied. And
no, it's just groups of guys.
And then there's one super frustrating, at least it frustrated me, one where you get to the last area, and rather than there just being a really hard enemy to fight, it's like, now there's going to be 100 guys that mysteriously drop out of the sky at a pace that is not fast enough for all 100 guys to show up. And oh man, those ones, like every time I get to the end, I'm like, please just be a guy with a yellow health bar that I have to fight. Don't be 100 peons that are going to take 5 minutes to eventually phase into existence. But yeah, I mean, again, good for leveling up, right? Good for acquiring resources, but necessary. I say the Dark Instrument ones were vital to my enjoyment of the game for sure. But
yeah, so those are like the two components of the pirate stuff in the game: the ship combat and these island treasure hunts. Both of them super simple, and like I think like you're doing pirate stuff. You're going on island treasure hunts, you're stealing treasure from bad pirates, you're doing ship combat and stuff. But I think that if I said to somebody, this is a pirate game, you play as a pirate, you get a pirate ship, you assemble a crew, I think that they would just automatically assume that there's going to be more to pirate stuff than what this game has. It's almost like these are just two other mini games. The ship combat is almost like a mini game a la karaoke. And then the little island treasure hunts are just little mini dungeons with a collectible treasure. You get some money and points that you use to upgrade your character, Majima, to upgrade him as a character from those. So like they are worth doing because you need money. You need lots of money in the game, and you need lots of those pirate points or whatever the fuck they're called. But I think we're kind of on the same page with these pirate activities where it's like, if you do 10 of each of these activities, you're like, yeah, these are kind of fun. They're kind of neat. And then you do 10 more and you're like, those were the same as the last 10. And then you do 10 more and you're like, those were the same as the last 20. And that, by the way, the last one was really fucking hard. What's happening here? Yeah. So like, they're just kind of too simple for the amount of time that you do them. And both of them lack like a certain level of depth that would allow me to really like go into like RPG stat sicko mode and like get like the best boarding crew together. Instead, it's just like, no, this one has high stats, stuff like that.
It really reminded me of Pocket Circuit in the Kiryu games because like that was a mini game, right? You're just racing slot cars. That's all you're doing around a track. But like, it's always about what gear do you need for the race? So you need this tire and this frame and this thing and this engine, whatever. That was kind of the way it worked. And this felt like it just kind of a macro version of that, where like, you know, you've got these battles that at the beginning, they're super easy and you're killing. And then all of a sudden you get to a fight where you just can't do it. Just like in Pocket Circuit, you get to a race where your car goes off the track and you can't keep up with anybody. And so you got to be like, what the hell am I doing? So now you need to think, all right, is this engaging enough for me to either research or try a bunch of different options or look up a guide, right? You can look up a guide on the internet and just go by that. But the difference between Pocket Circuit and the pirate stuff is that the pirate stuff in this game was necessary to complete the game. Pocket Circuit, you could have walked in, done the first race, and been like, that was really neat, walk out, never go back again, and it wouldn't affect anything about the outcome of your game. This game requires you to engage with it, and it's just not that engaging. That long term, beginning fun, just like you described it.
And I think if you didn't do a ton of the side content, because you don't have to fight all the ships, you can kind of steer around them if you want to. You can just kind of mainline the game and not do these optional pirate side quests and not really seek out all the island landing areas and stuff like that. And I don't think the main story ship combat fights are that hard if you've tried really at all to like put together a crew in like spots that they're best in, if you've done your cursory, like first pass through the thing, assigning people in roles, make sure you have people in every empty slot, that kind of attention. You'll get through the ones in the main story. And I think that like some of the cracks in like how simple the stuff is kind of starts to show when it's like, okay, it's really fucking hard now. I did it, to be fair. I did it. And I can't say that it was like super worth it. It was worth it to get the instruments.
Yes, that was it for me. And because of the way they dole out those instruments, if you get all 4 of them, you're close enough to the end of that storyline that you might as well just finish it out. Like, you know what you're doing. But there is a moment though, I remember. So as Dave said, as you said before, they're broken up into zones. I used hand motions because this is a video one. I'm not used to this, so I got to worry about my hands now. So there's these different zones, and I thought that I was on the last zone. I thought that was the last zone. I finished. I'm like, this is going to be it. And they're like, oh no, the leader went to wherever the hell he went. And so another zone opened up, and I got to that zone, and that zone was big and had multiple locations and multiple ships. And I was like, oh man, I don't know. Like, I did it. Because that's the type of players we are, right? Like we just like, you want to see it through, and also, you're going to be talking about it on here. So you want to be like, have an informed opinion about it. Like, not that it's required, but you feel at least a little responsibility to see the things so you can talk about it. And so I did it, and I got to the end of it, and I was like, boy, that was sure one more zone of this. And that was all my only opinion I had on it. Like it just, I did the things again, got the stuff, got the trophy, and then moved on. Not to say it wasn't enjoyable at parts, because it was, but the length and the repetition did wear on me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that the pirate stuff has a baseline level of fun that you'll have doing the ship combat, running through a couple of those island things. Like it's the baseline is fun, but it doesn't change enough over doing dozens of ship combats for it to be like consistently interesting, even if it is always kind of fun to ram a boat and watch it explode. Like that's cool. Like,
I had green laser cannons, and every time I fired them, I was brought some form of delight at just being like, how fucking ridiculous is all this? It's great.
Exactly.
But then, like you said, and I do think a lot of it is that boarding stuff, because there's some more where you have to board, but even in Assassin's Creed Black Flag, to compare it to that, because that was a lot of comparisons at the beginning of the game, in that game, if you didn't want to board it, you could just blow up the ship and move on. You get less resources, you get less memory, but you could just fire another cannon shot and be like, I don't feel like boarding this one, move on. This game with those big ships doesn't give you that option. You just gotta, you gotta do it.
The saving grace is sometimes you'll board, and the pirate crews you're fighting will have a theme to them, which are funny, like like you said, robots, or like a pirate ship of all sumo wrestlers. Or
that's the one I was going to mention.
Like those are stuff like that's funny.
It's great.
You said something I think is a good transition, which is like the more and more you do it, the more you start to kind of be like, okay, another one of these. This is how I feel about action combat in this series. I think that technically, like, I think they're probably good action combat series if you like get good at them and play on a higher difficulty. I think they're probably good. This studio has pedigree in fighting games, so like I'm pretty sure they're good. On the standard difficulty, it's just not super interesting. It's pleasing to play. The animations are goofy as hell. They're over the top. Your abilities are crazy. The heat actions, as always, where you have like context sensitive super moves, they're always great to see them. So like, if you come up against a fight on the street against 4 dudes, that is almost certainly not going to be an interesting fight as an action game on the standard difficulty. What it is going to do is you're going to see a bunch of like just gratuitous violence, especially when you get into those heat actions. So when the series switched out of action combat, I was happy. I was sick of the action combat in Yakuza
Well, I shouldn't
games.
say me too. I played turn-based first, but then went back to action.
Right.
And when I got back to turn-based, I was pretty happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to say that they're bad combat systems. I think this series has a bunch of really shitty boss fights. That's my biggest gripe with the action combat games.
Yep.
This game's different. I feel like this is pretty easy. Even on the standard difficulty, if you just try to block and dodge sometimes, you will melt through basically every boss in the game.
Yep.
Unless you're really neglecting upgrading your character with like health and attack upgrades. But by doing the ship stuff, even the stuff required in the story, you'll get a bunch of money. And if you choose to spend that on Majima's character, I found this game to be easier than every other action combat one in the series. And so it's like, am I ready to be a good critic on this action game, on this action combat system? Not really, because I just blew through it on the standard difficulty with just being like, oh, big attack coming, dodge to the side, like that kind of thing, rather than like, let me get into like the nitty gritty of this combat system. Whereas I think in, even in Gaiden, but in the other Kiryu games, especially, like when you got into harder fights, like you had to like be good at the combat system, I think. To fight the hardest boss fights.
In the action games where you play as Kiryu specifically, I mean, I know there was you could play as different people throughout some of those, but you had to get to some sort of proficiency with either dodging or quick step, or there were some parry mechanics depending, or if you go back to Yakuza 0, each fighter had 3 separate styles, and you could get really proficient with some of those. In this game, you're right. I think it was like demonstrably easier than most of the other games in the franchise, if not all of them. And I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure if that was a design choice or if it was just like, this is a side story. We want Majima to be this kind of like super force type thing.
Majima's telling the story. So
yeah, like, Majima's telling the story.
Majima's like,
so,
no, nobody stood a chance against me.
Yeah, nobody touched me. I barely had a scrape. I do think a big part of it too is that this game offers a really, at first interesting, but then almost game-breaking to me, range combat option, where if you just hold the triangle button on PlayStation, Majima will throw both of his cutlasses like a lightsaber throw, and then they'll immediately come back to him. So when you're dealing with like a group of enemies, if you just hold that button, you're taking off a lot of health before you're even like closing that gap to do physical damage. Which I use that a lot. He also has a gun, which they have had in like Ishin. They had a gun, but it was a little bit more. It was like that gun dancer one in Ishin, where you could, like, it was more melee combos where you would then fire your revolver or whatever. But in this one, there were so many different. Not even so many different. There were a few different options that I could use to do significant damage before I ever really engaged in the fight, and then. You come to some of those boss arenas, like the ones you talked about, the boss fights, the spaces you were fighting these bosses in were a little bit more wide open than you were used to in some of the action games. You're used to Kamurocho, right? In tight alleyways, tight areas. And these ones, you're kind of on these islands, or you might be on the deck of a ship where it's easy to avoid things coming at you. And the attacks are telegraphed in such a way to let you know what's coming. So once you get through the first three or four phases of somebody's attacks, be like, okay, I know each one. And then from that point on, it was just really, now I'll get him down to half health. And then at half health, he gets super pissed and turns red. And now there's 2 other attacks I got to worry about. But that formula kind of went through, and I don't remember. I'm sure I must have lost a boss fight. I know I lost in those pirate battles. I'm sure I must have at least retried 1 or 2 boss fights, but there was never that one fight like in some of the games where you're like, oh my God, I had to fight Dojima 16 times before I beat him. Like, this game didn't have that. I think it was maybe 1 or 2 attempts at max before I was blowing through these encounters.
Yeah, I don't think I ever died in this game in a boss fight. Part of the other like issue with the combat system the action combat systems in these games is you can just hoard healing items and just kind of power through and heal for it. You can pause and heal whenever you want.
That's how I beat Yakuza 5. I couldn't be the final boss, so I just went in full of whatever they were, stamina and X. I can never pronounce that. Double X's and just whatever it was, and just like I had 10 of everything, and that's how I got through that fight.
That's how I beat most of like the hard bosses in most of the action games in the series for sure. And this one, like, the final couple bosses made me heal a few times, but like they were kind of jokes at the end of the day. And the final boss has like 28 health bars in this game, and they just melt down. So it makes me think that they're kind of like either making it easy and like playing with any jokes they've heard about how many health bars Yakuza bosses have, or it's Majima telling the story and being like, this guy was so tough, he had 28 health bars, but I just ripped right through them, shit like that. But it was pretty easy. I thought Majima's pirate, because he has two stances. He has like the regular Majima fighting with the little knife in his fists, and then you have the pirate fighting style with the cutlasses and the gun and the grappling hook. And like, I thought the pirate fighting style was like pretty fun as just like a lizard brain pleasing type of thing. Like, this is funny. I'm fighting guys with cutlasses on the streets of Honolulu. It's very
exactly.
It's entertainment.
It's visually pleasing too. Like, he moves around a lot. He does these spinning attacks with his sword. Like, it really feels like you're like a hot knife going through butter, just carving these guys up. It is fun for sure.
Yeah. Animations are great in combat for all this stuff. It's just like, if you sit and think about like, am I interested in this combat system enough to like try to play on a higher difficulty? Absolutely not. Like, it's not, I guess it's not why I'm here, but also I just never got the sense from any of these combat systems that I would think that their version of like making the fights harder would be interesting to me personally. Now, I've heard from some friends of mine who are like big action game heads, a couple Discord servers I know that are like, got a lot of action game heads in there, and they swear the Yakuza action combat systems are like good and legitimate in their eyes as big action game fans. So I'll trust them, but on that standard difficulty, I don't think that these are like super interesting. They're more just like kind of fun to cut through everybody, especially in this game.
I think that might be a recognition. This is just me hypothesizing. That might be a recognition by the developer of kind of knowing why people were going to come to this game. You know what I mean? I don't think that people weren't coming to this game the way that people approach Neo, right? Like, people aren't going to come to this for parries and tight windows and things like that. I do know a friend of mine who's on the Canerins podcast, McKeel Croder. Like, he's an action game head. He swears by the Yakuza games that they are in like intense and good action combat systems. He has not played this game yet. But I will say that I'm really glad he finds it that way. I am not good enough or interested enough in those types of systems to engage with them on that level. But this one, even by Like a Dragon standards, felt not simple, but just easy. It felt easier. Again, that might be due to the narrative of Majima telling his own story, or it could just be that they wanted something a little lighter, knowing what the story they were trying to tell and the adventure they were trying to put you on. So
yeah, and I honestly think that this series has come a long way from like the draw maybe of having a 3D beat 'em up, with all the setting and everything else that comes with Yakuza, and also it's a 3D beat 'em up because back on the PS2 when the series first started, we were less removed from the beat 'em up being like a dominant type of video game as we are now. So maybe they are just kind of like, maybe it's just with this game. Maybe if they make a new Judgment game, it's going to be hard or less of a cakewalk than this one was as far as action combat goes. But this one kind of was, for any of the reasons we talked about there.
And even you look at their most recent two side stories, the remake of Ishin and then Gaiden, those were action comic games that had real challenge to them, like at a point, like real challenge to them, that I'm sure that someone who's better than me or more patient than me could get good at the system and then, go through some of those bosses and not get hit. For me, I was just chugging energy drinks during the fight. But that it was a deviation from those games and at least the difficulty of them for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't beat the final boss in Gaiden on the standard difficulty. I had to turn it to easy. So
it was very hard. Yes.
Yeah. The other part of gameplay in Yakuza games is the mini games. So most of the big hits return. Karaoke is back. I did a bunch of karaoke. Some of the games come back from Infinite Wealth, like the Crazy Taxi, Crazy Delivery game. The Sicko Snap game, I think, is back. They brought Dragon Kart back, which is basically Mario Kart, from Yakuza Like a Dragon. And there's a whole bunch of other activities that you can do around here. Before talking about some of our favorites, I guess, however deep we want to go into it, I thought that the chapter of the game where they bring you to Honolulu and they're like, check out all the mini games. I thought that chapter sucked the pacing completely out of the story 100%. To just be like, we're going to make you play Crazy Delivery, Bicycle Crazy Taxi right now, when you probably want to go start recruiting new crew members for your brand new pirate ship. And it was a rough stretch of game. To take nothing away from Crazy Delivery as a mini game.
Sure.
Just throwing that out there, that part of the game was very slow. But as far as mini games go, what did you tend to get into?
So I really like the Sicko Snap mini games just because I'm a Pokemon Snap pervert. So that was fun for me to go through those and look at those. But the thing is that those were copy and pasted from Infinite Wealth. The people you're taking pictures of were in different locations and sometimes but essentially it was a lift and drop in. I would say the same thing about Crazy Delivery. Even the shortcuts and the fun boosts in Crazy Delivery were similarly placed. I think those are both fun mini games, but I will say again that I got my fill of those in Infinite Wealth. It feels like I just did those things, so that was kind of interesting to me to see them directly replaced, or directly, lifted from one to the other. Dragon Kart, I was the only one I ended up doing all of, just because I hadn't done it in a couple games, and it was good. It was fun. It is one of those things where you just, it's not very difficult to get through all of it, but I thought that the racers get increasingly the racers you're racing against were wacky enough and goofy enough that I wanted to see who the next person I was racing against was. So I did that, and that was a nice little fun thing. But that was pretty much it for those. I didn't do much pool, darts, the other stuff that I have on offer.
I did a fair share of karaoke. I did a little bit of Dragon Kart. I did a good amount of the new batting cage minigame where you hit cannonballs out of the air.
That was fun.
I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
But I think as the series goes, I do less and less of, like you said, the pool, the darts. I'll never sit down and max out, play darts with everybody, do all the Dragon Kart, do all the Crazy Delivery. Like, once I've done it in one game, I might dip in just for, 15 minutes or so. With the exception of, I love the mini golf mini games and I love the batting cages. I'll do those in every game.
I love the batting cages too. Yeah. Oh yeah. The golf off the pier too. You can do in this one too.
I don't even think I found that.
Yeah.
In this game.
Yeah. That was pretty cool too. The one thing I will say, I know that I don't want to drone on for too long, but the mini games, like you said, they forced you to play them as part of that slot. And I agree with you. That was a bad section of game, because there have been times where, in the past they've made you play those mini games, but it was always story appropriate. Like Ichiban with the can collecting, like the reason he was doing that was because he was broke. It wasn't just like, hey, you have to do this now. It was like, it made sense within the context of the story. As weird and goofy as that mini game is, it made sense for Ichiban to be doing it right there. When in this game, Majima, you're right, he should have been like, hey, no, I don't have time to be your Uber Eats driver right now. I've got to go assemble my crew,
Right.
So, yeah.
But they are always there, and I will always take the opportunity because the story will often make you go to the bar to like progress the story.
Yep.
So I'll always sing a few karaoke songs in there and see what weird like backing videos they've thrown into the game for those karaoke songs. So at this point, 10 plus games into the series, I'm not going to do all the mini game stuff in every game. I will sample and then I'll play the ones that I like the most. I'll put a couple hours into, but that's about it. I'm glad they're there, but I'm not a completionist in any game, and I'm like the furthest from a completionist in these games because of how much that entails.
You're not going to play, 22 hours of shogi, to finish up all those things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, learn how to play those games. Yeah.
Yeah, right, sure. Exactly. Learn how to play them and then get good at them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all told, I think like one of the big themes of the gameplay is that nothing about the gameplay is like breathtakingly awesome. I don't think there's anything about it that like sucks. There's a level of enjoyment that you'll get out of doing the stuff. Some of it might require you to do too much of it. I know that there's some people who like get tired of combat in these games because you just have to fight so many random guys on the street all the time. So like there is that aspect depending on how much time you put into it. So even if we've gone through and been like, I don't know if this is a great combat system, the ship combat, the boarding, the island treasure hunts, all of that is like pretty simple for the amount that you do. Yeah. It's still like a pretty fun game to play through, even if I think all of these separate types of gameplay we've talked about, we hit a point with all of them where we're like, okay, wow, another one. Okay. All right. I guess here we go,
And I think that's where that necessary conversation that we started this, last almost 2 hours talking about was that's why you have that conversation. It's not that any of it's bad. It's not, all of it has a legit reason to enjoy, but when you stitch it all together, it just doesn't do that thing that you felt in the previous games. And I think a lot of that is due to the narrative and the whether or not you find that narrative compelling. If you found that narrative compelling, this game might go farther for you than it did for me. Doesn't mean I didn't like it. Doesn't mean that I think it's bad by any stretch. I think it looks great. It moves awesome. It's smooth. It's nice. It's pretty. All the things. But yeah, it just didn't have that stickiness that a lot of these other games have had for me, for sure. Everybody freaking.
I asked this question on most of the Like a Dragon episodes of the show. Do you think that anybody outside of longtime series fans should pick this up?
I'd say probably not.
I agree.
Yeah, it's just...
It sounds harsh, doesn't it?
It does, because I genuinely enjoyed the game, But yeah, no, I don't think... But the reason, and maybe you might have just answered it for me there, Dave, because I hadn't considered this until right now. The only reason I enjoyed this game as much as I did was because of my familiarity with the rest of the series. That's it. If I was coming into this game cold, like completely cold, I would have thought it was interesting, but I didn't really understand what was going on. It might be a little too off the beaten path, and the story doesn't make much sense, and it keeps referencing these people that I don't really know anything about. I've heard these names a couple times, but I don't really know anything. No, I think maybe the best time to play this game is after you've played every other game, and then you're looking for a shot of Yakuza in your life, and there's nothing new available. Like, I think that might be the perfect person to recommend it to.
That's the position we found ourselves in when the game released. It had been
exactly
a year or so since Infinite Wealth came out, and we won a little hit of one of our favorite series, and so that's what this is. And I agree with you. Like, it sounds harsh to say that I don't recommend it to anyone except Yakuza diehards, but that is who's going to get the most enjoyment out 100%. Of this, I think. Like, I think that someone could play this and be like, yeah, these characters are funny, and the game is like overly serious but also goofy as hell, but like if that's the feeling and new experience that you want, please play Yakuza 0 or play Like a Dragon instead. Like, there are better versions of those feelings.
Yes.
So
And then when you get hooked on those, this will be there for you. You know, when you're looking for exactly.
So this, to kind of put a bow on the non-spoiler part of this episode, I was thinking about like the position that we take when we do the podcast, you know, myself every episode, and then my ask of my guests is to think critically about these games. And it feels to me that like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is junk food that if you think too critically about, if you do the job that we're doing right now, I don't think it stands up to a lot of serious criticism. That doesn't mean that you can't play this and enjoy the hell out of the experience, because junk food is fine sometimes, in moderation. It just, I just don't think that a lot of these things stand up to a level of criticism that we're bringing in this episode, and B, a level of quality that most of the other games in the series have set. Infinite Wealth had a whole hell of a lot of problems, in my opinion, but at the end of the day, it was an excellent game overall. So this, on the heels of that, you might start to notice some of those things that are a little bit lesser, especially where the plot is concerned and some of the characters and a little lack of attachment to some of it. It may stick out in that way. And
then if that plot's lacking, then you rely on iterations and advancements in gameplay, right? So if the game's plot doesn't, you want at least the mechanics of the things you're doing to move forward too. And there were new mechanics in this game we've gone over extensively, but as you and I have both said, I believe they're shallow to the point where once you've done them a few times, you kind of understand it. And then when you're looking to move on from it, what you're moving on to is not as compelling as what some of the other games offer you.
Yep, exactly. So like, neither of us are coming out of this saying that this game is terrible, but it's an extremely qualified recommendation for if you love Yakuza and you've played everything that's available, then this one's here. You'll have a good time with it. But it's really hard to recommend it to others outside of that.
You would never recommend someone who says, "Hey, where can I get some good Mexican food?" You would never recommend Taco Bell to them.
Right.
However, there are some days you just want Taco Bell.
Yeah,
the both things can be true, and I think that this is kind of one of those moments, and I think you explained it pretty well. I know it feels like we're just echoing each other, so I don't want like people to think that like we like I'm sure we have nuanced opinions about certain things, but I do believe that as we are both people who have enjoyed tons of these Yakuza games, that we have a common thread here that kept us along for all the other games. So it makes sense that we would be disappointed by similar things in this side story.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely agree. Okay, so a very long non-spoiler. I think the spoiler section is going to be quite short in this episode. It's not a really complex plot to talk about. So we may end up at a pretty average recording time here, but I'm not going to keep talking about how long the episode is and make it longer. So before we get out of non-spoilers here, I want to give you a chance, Brian, to talk about the things that you make, the things that you work on. Said at the top of the show, Kane and Rince, the Character Issues podcast, and anything else that you want to plug. So tell people about those and where they can find them.
Thanks. Yeah, I always lead with Kane and Rince, even though I'm not one of the founding members. I haven't been around forever, but it's the only reason I do this, to be honest. It's a deep dive podcast, not dissimilar from the one that we're on now, Tales from the Backlog. It's where we explore a different game every episode. There's a panel of normally 4, sometimes 3 hosts that just talk about a game as in depth as we can, about a 2-hour show. It's a clean show. Kind of trying to take a little bit more, I wouldn't say, I think Leon would cringe if I said academic view, but at least a little bit more of an in-depth kind of objective viewpoint on video games. So that's Kane and Rince. And then if you want to hear me and 2 of my friends swear a lot and say ridiculous things, that would be the Character Issues podcast, which I host with my friends Leah Haydu and Rich Davison, where we are building a list of the greatest video game characters of all time. We are currently at 147 characters on that list, with the greatest character of all time being Kefka from Final Fantasy VI, and the worst character of all time, of course, being Chadley from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But the good news is that we're getting back to our regular recording schedule. If you look in the episode dates, we had a little bit of a hiatus there, but we're back in action now, getting back to the regular stuff. So if you are interested in anything, thanks for listening to those shows. If you get a chance, we always appreciate it. We do them for fun, so it's always fun when people listen.
Absolutely, yeah. Character Issues is a good time, and there's plenty of Yakuza character representation on the character list there. So fans of the Yakuza series can tune in to hear about that. But it's a fun show, and it's kind of like the three of you get to show another side of yourselves, different from what you talk about on Kane and Rince and stuff like that.
It's super not safe for work, just so in case people know. But we have a great time doing it.
Yeah, it sounds like it for sure. And I like to hear that. And then I've told you before, but Kane and Rince was one of the two primary inspirations for this podcast. So if that is not a high enough recommendation, I don't know what is for people to check that show out. Very similar types of conversation and respect for the art of video games and in the conversations that you have there. So I will put down in the show notes links, easy access for people to check out Kane and Rince and Character Issues. So people don't need to try to remember what things are called. Just go find those links, go click. You'll find them easily. I did my own plugs at the top of the show here, but one more time, real quick, consider supporting on Patreon if you can. Actually, I forgot to do the plugs at the top. Patreon is a way you can support the show monetarily if you would like to do that. Patreon.com/RealDaveJackson is the place. And the Discord server also. We have a lot of Yakuza Like a Dragon fans in the server. We would love to have you. It's a public server. There's an invite down in the show notes as well.
Real quick before we finish.
Yes.
I can't recommend that Discord server enough. I'm someone who doesn't have internet during the day, but the Tales from the Backlog Discord server is one of the most welcoming places I've ever felt on the internet. I came in as a guest before I came on to the last show we recorded and just started talking to people. And we want to talk about a group of like-minded, fun-loving, good people. The Tales from the Backlog Discord is great, and also the Top 3 podcast is a ton of fun too. I listen regularly to that. So
thank you, thank you. Top 3 is on ice at the time. I just don't have time for multiple podcasts anymore. But it's still there. People can go listen to a Top 3 podcast.
There's some of those episodes. Oh man, they're fantastic.
Well, thank you. There we go. Top 3 podcast, Patreon, Discord, Kane and Rince, Character Issues. Lots of stuff for you to think about as we have the music play us through the spoiler break. We're going to do that now, and when we come back, it will be full spoiler time for Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. All right, before we get to spoilers for Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, I have the customary thank yous to do, but first, an announcement. This year on the Retro Hangover podcast, on the King of Games tournament, the annual King of Games tournament, we're doing the year 1999, and I'm one of the judges and guest hosts for the tournament to find out what is the best game from 1999. What is the King of Games? Round 1, Match 1 is up live on the main feed. It is EverQuest versus Donkey Kong 64. The tournament kicks off with that matchup, so head on over to Retro Hangover. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to get started with that tournament and find out what the King of Games for 1999 is. And I'd like to say thank you to the patrons who help support the show. And a big shout out goes to Chris Nelson, the Top 3 podcast crew, Zulgeek, Chris Copleen, Eric Guess, Rick Firestone, Nick Ficori, Jill, Soccer, Cupcake, Kyle, Christian S., Matt aka Stormageddon, JD, Doug Leaf, Jason Emery, Brian Skirsha, Jenny E., Marcus O'Neill, Stefan, Drellish, Rob Smith, Rigamort, Silcanet, Ashton Ruby, Levi, John E., Chump Change, Matthew Turner, Aliasi, new patrons Joseph Hooper and Simon J., and many more. I truly appreciate the support that you all give to me. It means a lot to me, and it helps a lot too. And if you're out there listening and you'd like to join them, you can do so at patreon.com/RealDaveJackson. Thanks again, and it's time now to get into full spoilers for Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. All right, we're back, and it's full spoiler time for Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. I have not missed it one time if you're keeping count at home. So we're going to start the spoiler section by just a kind of quick hits, favorite sub-stories, and then there's one sub-story that I know we're going to talk about because it's just so insane. And then we'll get into this game's plot and tie-ins with Infinite Wealth. So I do want to warn people one more time. If you haven't played Infinite Wealth, we're going to spoil the conclusion of the Kiryu storyline in that game.
Yes.
In this conversation. So with that being said, Brian, other than Masaru's, we'll save that for last. What was your favorite sub-story in the game?
So, my favorite sub-story was, aside from the Minato girls, again, like you said, was one, I believe, I had it pulled up here because I always forget, it's called Goro's Heart.
Yes,
so you have this
the little tiger cat.
Yeah, you have a tiger with you on this whole journey. Goro, of course, they name him Goro without knowing that Majima's name is Goro. It's one of the dumbest things in the most wonderful way. Anyway, so this guy you just come across, you're on the banks of the water in Honolulu, so naturally you come across a scientist in a full lab coat because that's what happens. And he claims that he has invented a device that you can put on your helmet, almost like a VR helmet type of thing, that will let you hear the thoughts of animals. And so Majima puts it on, and he starts going through. He's talking to Goro, and so he's talking to Goro, and it starts out kind of, like normal, and then like Majima and Goro start having a conversation that gets very romantic. Like Majima starts falling in love with the tiger, and the tiger is telling him, Majima, how much I saw. The one quote is like, I saw you looking at other cats and I got really jealous. Like, it gets really fucking wild. And I'm just like, what the shit is this? So I know there's going to be some Yakuza bullshit behind it, right? So of course you put on the helmet, and the scientist has just gone behind a tree that doesn't fully hide him, by the way. You can like see his elbow sticking out from it, and he's talking to you over a walkie-talkie, and basically it falls apart, and he becomes, he's like, oh no, I really thought it was going to work and it didn't. So I had to come up. Just a classic, like flop sweat salesman story. Oh man. But I couldn't believe it. And it's relatively short sub-story. Probably that's like 5 minutes at the most, but like, when they started going, I'm like, oh, this is kind of funny. It's almost like they're dating. And then they took it one step further and like, wow, they're almost like they're romantic. And they took it one step further. I'm like, is Majima going to open mouth kiss this tiger? Like, what is going on here? And it brought me an immense amount of joy. I just, it tickled me in a way. I remember laughing out loud and accidentally waking up the dog that was sleeping on the couch next to me. It was pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was fun. His grift kind of falls apart when he's trying to sell you new batteries for the thing because the batteries run out in like 30 seconds. Yeah. But Majima's like you said, Majima's like weirdly into this conversation with the tiger. So he's like, I need more batteries. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, batteries are $17,000 or something ridiculous. And then he's like, all right, what's going on here? Yeah.
It's so stupid in the best way.
Yeah. And that's what we want from, I think, the sub-stories in these games. This is where these sometimes serious, like heartfelt moments come out in the sub-stories, but mostly goofy shit. Yeah. It's goofy shit with then like heartfelt stuff at the end, lessons learned and things. This is the point where I don't remember, do you fight this guy? But like, this sub-story,
I don't think you do. I think that he just kind of like gets like upset and then like tries to like save face, and then when Majima's like, you tried to extort me for money, guess you gotta go become an indentured servant pirate crew member now, and he's like, okay, and then you can put the scientist on your crew. I think that's the resolution. Which to be fair is the resolution to most of the sub-stories in this game.
Right. And I was going to say the resolution to most sub-stories in most of these games in the series is Kiryu or Ichiban beats the shit out of somebody. They apologize and talk about the lesson that they've learned. throughout the course of the thing.
There's no better come to Jesus moment than a fist from Kiryu or Ichiban,
Yes.
that's for sure. Everybody sees the error of their ways when that happens, that's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. My sub-story that I pointed out that other than Masaru's was the Idol fan club tour sub-story, which it's one of those ones that like, it's definitely about a dark part of like Japanese entertainment, idols and fan clubs and stuff like that, how obsessed some people get. And it turns out that the idol and the security guards are scamming the fans out, and they fucking hate the fans that are on the tour and stuff like that.
They're like smoking cigarettes around the corner being like, can you believe these idiots? Like,
yeah. Exactly. And so there's like multiple angles where if you like look into it, maybe if you remember Yakuza 5, like this series has done stuff with the idol industry before, kind of commentary about it. It's not new for the series, but it is, interesting to see. The end is kind of about like separating art from artists, and like the fan that you're most connected with in the sub-story is kind of like, yeah, I know what happened here, but like it's not going to change how your music changed my life and stuff like that. And then all of the fans join your pirate crew.
Yep. They sure
after
do.
this situation, because that's how all of the stories end in this in this game, is maybe you don't fight everybody, but they will all become pirates on your ship.
100%. 100%. That the thing I like most about that one was like how crappy all of the like engagements were. Like, now you're gonna go do this with them, and then you're basically, she's just running away from you in the mall, and you have to get back to the bus on time, and people are getting in your way and shit. Like, it's so very good stuff.
Yep. Speaking of good stuff, the one that we have to talk about, not the one that we picked to talk about, we have to talk about the one with Masaru, who's he's the chef on the ship. He's one of the biggest characters in the game, most important characters. And he gets kind of down about his just kind of down in general about his life. And so Majima decides that he wants to help put on, a night out for him with the Minato girls, which like high class, like socialite type girls from what I understand.
Yes.
So you have to go recruit all of them in the normal Yakuza stuff. You meet them, you beat the shit out of some guys for one reason or another. They all decide to join because Majima has the charm and, convinces them that this is worth doing to come meet this random guy at a bar and, have a night out with him. But what's notable about this, once you get to the scene where it's like the party night, it's all FMV. And the series has had FMV in the past for little mini games, cabaret type stuff. They have never had an extended FMV sequence. This is like 30 minutes long. Like it's really long.
It's unbelievable. Like to the point where I could not believe that it was still going on. Like not upset at all. Not upset about it, but holy hell. Like, and this is just kind of tucked away, not even tucked away. It's just like on a list of all the other shit you've done. So you're just assuming you're just getting involved in another hijinks. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to be some big deal. And oh my God, I was dying laughing through this whole thing. Oh man.
It's so good. So I don't know I should have researched this. I don't know about the actor who plays Masaru. I don't know anything else about that person's career. They have to be a comedian.
You would think.
Like they have to, like, they remind me of like a comedian on a Japanese or like a Korean variety comedy program where like, they just put them in weird situations and just let them be funny, because that's what this is. So it's like a Bachelor, like the Bachelor reality show where the girls are trying to win it's not a rose, it's a dandelion that he's carrying around. And he has these individual dates with these girls and he just fucks them all up so badly in such hilarious fashion. What was your favorite of the little dates in there?
I think when he's trying to cook, is probably my favorite part. He's trying to be like, almost like some like an amended version of like a hibachi chef. Like he's trying to do tricks with like, cooking stuff. And oh man. And then maybe the best part about that is that, and as you put in the show notes here, he has a fake mustache, but it's not like a bushy stick on much. It's like a drawn or painted on mustache he has. Like as if it's going to make him more distinguished or something. Oh man. And he's a chef, so this is the one he should fucking nail. Like, this is the one that he should absolutely hammer. And, it doesn't go that way. What does he serve for? It's like,
it's bean sprouts.
Or something. Bean sprouts, something like that. Oh, God. That was my favorite. What was yours?
Well, like, in the one where he's cooking, too, he's kind of cooking, but he's just flipping the pepper grinder around and like a comical amount. Like he flips the pepper grinder like 20 times. Like it's 100%. Not like he does it twice and does a little flourish, like just constantly flipping stuff around. It's so goofy. My favorite one is the one where it's the first one too. So this is like the one they lead with. Actually, you can talk to the girls in any order. It was the first one that I saw, was the one where he's ordering the drink and he can't like he sits down, he's super suave, he's got a ton of charisma, and the girl is just like eating up everything he says. And the waiter comes to ask for what drink he wants. He can't speak English, and the waiter sounds like they're saying French words, and he can't understand what they're saying. So like the language barrier is like a huge issue, and he orders something, and it turns out he ordered yogurt, and they bring out yogurt, and he just tries to play it off, and the girl's like, dude, this is yogurt. What are you doing? And he just fucks it up so badly.
Oh God.
It's so funny.
It's a really interesting, not to like get back into the story too much, but like Masaru goes through some shit in this story, like, and like, does some fucked up stuff too. Like, so it was really fun to see him in just kind of this, like, broke down, like this, like, absolutely humbled man seeking female attention, willing to do anything, like, doesn't want to look like an idiot, so will look like 10 times more of an idiot trying to not look like an idiot. It's just, it's that classic buffoonery stuff that really works in these games. Like, it's just this sub-story is like what sub-stories are about to me in the Yakuza games. Like, this is what you're here for. Just great shit.
But it's so striking and memorable because it's such a long FMV thing. It got me thinking, like, they obviously had this idea for this very funny sequence of events to happen, and they probably were just like, it would be cheaper to do it FMV than try to do cutscenes. So
and then like, and then now you have this super memorable thing. Not that it wouldn't have been memorable in game, but like now you have this like completely different thing. Like, this is maybe the only thing I've seen talked about from this game at, like beyond the first week or two. Like, everybody's like, this, the average Yakuza pirate game secretly has the best sub-story in the franchise. You know what I mean? Like that type of stuff. It's great.
It's really good. And by doing the FMV, they get to leverage this guy's like real life charisma and acting comedy chops. And the girls are they're all good too. Like, they're
for sure.
Everyone's hamming it up in there. Like, they all understood the assignment, as the kids say.
This is easy now for those who might not want to play through the whole game, or if you're listening to this and this is easily searchable and watchable on YouTube. I, as someone who's done it several times since finishing the game, this is something you can find out there. It's readily available. It's just good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's very good. And like you said, aside from what I'm going to bring up right next, it will be the thing I remember the most from the game. Like the first time I got a Baby Club sub-story in one of these games. It's on that level.
Exactly. Yep, 100%.
So honestly, when we talk about the main story of the game, I don't think that the villains are particularly interesting. I don't think that the hunt for the treasure is particularly interesting, other than Saejima shows up and he joins up after you fight him because he tries to punch the memories back into Majima. And also he gets mad because Majima kind of disrespects him because he shows up and he uses the Japanese word for, like, brother like a sworn brother type of thing, I think. And Majima's like, dude, I don't fucking know you. Like, get out of here. And he's like, all right, if you're going to talk to me like that, we're going to throw down.
Yeah.
And so you do. So he's back. He's the main returning character, which makes sense for a game.
Sure,
Majima.
with Majima, that he should be the one to come try to get him back and try to get his memories back. You think if Majima sees anyone that's going to spark that memory, like effectively, it would be Saejima for sure. Yeah,
right. So I think the most interesting parts about the story, and frankly, the only things that I want to spend time talking about on the show, are the tie-ins with Infinite Wealth at the end. And one is much more interesting than the other. The first one is the pirate treasure of Esperanza was rumored to be the fountain of life.
Fountain of youth.
Yeah, the fountain of youth.
An elixir that can keep you alive forever, basically, right? Like,
right.
There's
Jason's looking for it because it's going to cure it can cure Noah's condition, and the other people want it because they want to make money. They want the treasure to make money. It turns out that's how Bryce, the villain from Infinite Wealth, lived so long, is they did find this. It was not, a magic potion. It was a rock, something from whales. Ambergris.
Yeah.
From the stomach of sperm whales. There we go.
Yeah.
So they found it, but they threw it in the ocean, so they don't have it anymore. What is most interesting is we find out why Majima was on the boat, and it's because he was searching for this treasure. He heard it was the Fountain of Youth because he wanted to help Kiryu with his cancer treatment.
Yep.
And I kind of wish they had I guess they couldn't have brought it in too soon, but this is the most interesting part of the story by far, and it's the last cutscene of the game.
No doubt. I took a few notes for the show, and the largest under story, I almost put nothing, like you've already mentioned, about the actual story of this game. But that last cutscene, that last moment, is so fascinating because what you're really seeing, and I'm sure you're gonna go over the exact moment. It's not just three characters potentially having a conversation about everything that's going on, but it's the culmination of hundreds of hours of gameplay and hundreds of hours of experience with these characters. And now the way this game finishes makes me so excited for whatever comes next, because you've got all these dudes in the room together again. You know what I mean? Anyway, sorry, I don't want to take away the explanation of what happened, but
no, you're 100% right. This is why Kiryu's storyline in Infinite Wealth was so interesting. And this is why this moment at the end of a otherwise completely inconsequential story hits the way that it does, because like you said, we and all the characters have all this shared time together. And we've known through several games that Majima has a playful rivalry with Kiryu, but deeply cares about him as a almost a friend, but as a person, and respects the hell out of him, and Kiryu to Majima the same way. And so for this to be the thing that they reveal, Majima went on this wild pirate treasure chase to try to heal Kiryu's cancer. Because we talked about this in the Infinite Wealth episode, but this is something that several stories now, I don't want to be too specific for fear of spoilers, but this is one way that storytellers have chosen to take down the person who's never going to lose in combat, basically, right? So a sickness, in this case, Kiryu getting cancer, it's the only way that we'll ever believe that Kiryu is actually in danger anymore.
Yes.
You could bring up any buff dude that you can think of. No one will believe for a second that guy's going to kill Kiryu in combat,
Yeah, Kiryu has beaten up several wild tigers with his bare fists. Nothing's taking him down.
Right. So this is the thing that puts Majima in that thing. But what you said, it's not just Majima telling this as he's kind of narrated the story up until this point. They do a really good scene. And it's interesting, it is a real back to the real world type of moment, because the pirate story is completely over. And then it's just a scene where Saejima and Majima are driving to the hospital. And they're kind of just talking about why he was out there and what he remembered. And then they get out of the car and they have a really good conversation just smoking a cigarette outside the hospital. And then they just kind of like slowly walk in, and you see them walk up to Kiryu's hospital door, kind of nod at each other, open the door, walk inside, and then it cuts and you don't see what Kiryu looks like, for example. So this is one of those things where it was almost a reminder to me, like, no, they have the storytelling sauce. They just told a weird story for this pirate adventure. But when we get back to the real shit, they still have it. They got it for sure.
And that's it, right? Like it doesn't make the journey frustrating. I wish there was more of that in the whole game, for sure. Mm-hmm. And does that moment justify the amount of time you spent to get there? I don't know. I think personal opinion mileage will vary. But for me, I was like talk about coming out of the game being like, all right, the boss fight was fine, whatever. Okay. Why the hell okay. So the person interviewing Majima about this is Ichiban. Why is that happening? I don't know. Mm-hmm. Adachi's here, but he's a cameraman. What the fuck's happening? But then that moment happens, right? And you find out why Majima was out there. Him and Saejima are going to the hospital room, and they're talking, just like having this like subtle but super deep conversation about like mortality and their friend who they're still kind of pissed off at, but they love him. So they're like, whatever, but they're going to be there for him because that's what those guys do, right? They show up for each other when shit is fucked up. That's what they do. It's their whole thing. And then they walk in the room that cuts, and I was left like, I want more. I want to know. Like, bring me into that room, and yeah, it just talk about bringing it all back around to the thing that made you love this franchise to begin with. That was that moment for me, no doubt. Like, yeah, it just was so powerful, especially for the ending of a pretty good game. You know what I mean? Like, the game was all right. You know, but like, I will remember that moment. That when I think of this game, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm remembering that.
Yeah. You just reminded me, like, the end of the actual pirate story involves you ship fighting a giant squid in ship combat, which is hilarious. And then the final boss dies because you punch him into a pool and a giant whale eats him. So you get those moments, and then it's like back to the real shit right after that. So I had thought earlier, what if they just put that moment, Majima and Saejima going to the hospital, in a different game? Like, did they just put it in another game? First of all, I think that this game greatly benefits from having that kind of like recentering and getting you back on like that storyline, looking forward to the future, because it has been a minute now since Infinite Wealth came out. And not that like our understanding of Kiryu's situation has changed at all, other than he's still alive. But they weren't going to kill Kiryu. Wasn't going to die of cancer off screen, you know? So it's not like we're worried about that. But I wonder, like, having gone through all that pirate adventure, I think does make this moment hit more than it would have if it was just another scene in another game. Because like the difference between ship combat versus a giant squid 30 minutes before this, and then this scene, which is like one of the deeper, more serious, most effective scenes they've done in a recent game, if ever. I think. I think that they work really well together, and it's like it's just a shame that this game took literally until the last hour of the game to really hit all the notes that we want out of the series.
Yes, 100%. I think one could raise a similar complaint about Infinite Wealth in some aspects. I'm not going to get into that. This isn't the Infinite Wealth show. You already recorded that, but like there are some moments of the end of that game that are kind of, all right, Bryce and doing other stuff, but then you get to like the real finale, and like again, I don't think it's as severe as this one. Obviously, you're not fighting a squid and then kicking Samoa Joe off a pier to get swallowed by a whale. But no, I do think that there is there's a gravity to that moment that is particularly poignant due to the fact that it was juxtaposed against the hilarity and nonsense that you're just a part of, and. Yeah, that moment brought me, I mean, it literally reformed my opinions on the game, and everything we said in the first 2 hours of the show, still super valid, doesn't change anything the way I feel about the systems, the combat, and everything else. But like, you get that last thing, and you're like, this is the real shit right here. This is why I'm here. Like, it pays you. It pays off. The journey you just went on pays off in a way that if you have another reason we only recommend it to people that have played all the games, right? Like, if you have all that context, that shit means something to you. It really does. Yeah. And man, it left a fucking wide-eyed grin on my face. That moment. Yeah. I was very thrilled with how that ended. And that was the most positive part of this game for me, was that final scene to me.
It should be no surprise that your most positive, and probably mine too, moment from the game is either something really goofy, like the multiple song and dance numbers.
Yep.
Doing ship combat against a giant squid. Like, those things that's cool. And those are the things that I thought I was getting with the game.
Yeah.
But when they return back to that shared history that we all have with Kiryu and Majima, and like what only we as the longtime fans truly understand about, like, this complex relationship between Kiryu and Majima, and how, in my opinion, Majima would lose a huge part of his reason for living if Kiryu were to die.
100%.
So,
yeah.
Finding out that was the reason he was on that boat, it was like, much earlier in the show, is like, why didn't Majima just get on a fucking plane to go to Japan? Well, this is why. This is the answer. Yes. And it's because he cares that much about Kiryu, that he's willing to go on a treasure hunt for this mythical treasure that probably doesn't exist, but he's going to try it anyway, because that's what he would do for Kiryu. And like you said, these guys, this is an amazing series in a lot of ways for, like, male friendship and like positive, healthy masculinity, and being there for everybody when the shit is the thickest. And this is a great example of that.
And willing to do whatever it takes for that person because you know that they would do whatever it takes for you. Like, that's a pretty healthy message in a pretty batshit video game. And it pays, like you said, it pays off on all that stuff that we've already seen. And then and it's bookended by the fact that Saejima came over to Hawaii to get his sworn brother to try to help him. And when his sworn brother told him to fuck off, essentially, and didn't remember anything, he's like, fine, I'm joining your pirate crew until you figure it out. You're not getting rid of me that easily. You know what I mean? Like, that's what these guys do. They show up for each other, and they stick out the shitty stuff. And boy, if that isn't a lesson for just humanity and relationships and everything else. Like, I know Yakuza has not always been great about handling things. They have not handled, they have been misogynistic in a lot of ways. There's been a lot of shaming of other cultures or people with different disabilities or whatever. Like much like all video games over the course of history, right? Like, the lens changes depending on the time frame. So I'm not defending Yakuza as some altruistic, like, moral center. But this moment, I think you can point to and be like, there's nothing but positivity you can bring out of that, to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And much like the game, it took us until 2.5 hours in to like really drill into, this is the good shit. It's here. It's here. It's just buried under, like we said, not a bad game, but a game that, like, will kind of test your patience in a lot of ways. Throughout its various mechanics and its story and pacing and things like that. But we got there. I'm glad that we were able to hit this moment. Similar to Gaiden, how, like, Gaiden had a lot of interesting things to think about, and then the ending of the game hit like a fucking truck. And you're left being like, no, this is the storytellers. They have it. They know what the soul of the series is.
That was the last time a video game made me cry. Was that one? That was the last time that it hit me that hard. That was Gaiden. Like,
for me, it may have been that until the prologue of Expedition 33. Very recently.
Dude, well, this is not that show, but the fucking first Gamage, are you kidding me? Dude, I was like, I feel it in my throat right now. It didn't happen, but I was this close. Oh my God. Anyway, we can talk about that another
time. Brian, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on, and what has turned into a kind of weirdo episode of the show, very non-standard in a lot of ways, but hey, that's this game, that's this series sometimes. I think that we've done a really good job of putting this game under the microscope for everything that it has to offer and everything, all the warts that may be there as well. So thank you, man.
Thank you for having me. And I don't know how this keeps happening. It happened first with Kane and Rince, and now with this show. I happen to be able to weasel my way into shows that I was already a fan of. So thank you for having me. I appreciate you and everything you're doing over here. I mean, the shows have been, and I'm not just saying this because we're recording. You can edit this out if you care, but the shows have been dynamite. And the way that the cadence in which you're releasing has happened and the things that you're doing with the show, I can't. There's not another podcast that I think more highly of than Tales from the Backlog. It's always a win listening to the show. So thanks.
Well, thank you. That it means a lot, especially coming from you. And all compliments stay in the final podcast. So thanks.
Good. All right. Good.
I will give a call one more time at the end of the episode for anyone who's still here, the real true heroes that you are, to please consider checking out Kane and Rince and the Character Issues podcast for, like we said, intelligent discussions about video games on both shows, but a little more comedy in Character Issues and the definitive scientific ranking of the best video game characters in the history of video games.
That's true.
So links down in the show notes. As always, thank you for staying around till the end, everybody. You're my heroes, and tune in next week for the next game to come out of the backlog.
You should listen to the Character Issues podcast. It's a scientific podcast where me, Brian Edwards, your host du jour, and my co-hosts, Leah Haydu.
Everyone loves Blitzball. I hate Blitzball. Fuck Blitzball.
And Rich Davison.
Are you implying that he intentionally tried to run over his daughter and then sort of bloviated a journey around Silent Hill to make sure that she could bleed out in the process?
Work towards building a list of the greatest video game characters of all time. Every character will be ranked. Every character shall be ranked. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you find your podcast. Character Issues is available for download. So, if you're interested in the hard-nosed science and definitely not a comedy podcast hosted by a couple of numbskulls, you should check out the Character Issues podcast because, let's face it, it's better if you do.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.